Welcome to Benno and Hamflett In Your House, a podcast reviewing WWE's iconic New Generation B shows in order from the bust back to the boom. I'm Michael Hamflett.
And I'm Benno. I'm Michael. It's In Your House 10. It's Mind Games. We're coming live from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Home of cheesecakes, home of the Phillies, home of some of JP on GRAPPL's relatives, I believe. Home of Will Smith, home of the playground where he spent most of his days. And of course, the home of a local wrestling franchise that will remain unnamed, so to speak. We are here, and welcome to another In Your House review.
I am pleased for the second, proud in fact, for the second In Your House review in a row to be able to classify this as one of my old haunts. I have visited the Core State Centre, now known as the Wells Fargo Centre. I did a bit of homework, Benno, for this one because I was able to visit, like obviously there's probably been a lot of illustrious events at the Wells Fargo is what I was thinking. Of course, I went to NXT Stand and Deliver 2024, which is probably the most illustrious of all the ones, maybe all to take place in Philadelphia as a wrestling city. But did you know the Core State Centre was home to WrestleMania 15? It was home to Mind Games, obviously the show we're going to cover today. Money in the Bank 2013, where one Mark Henry would get his world title shot after the salmon jacket turn on John Cena. Extreme Rules 2019, where our very own Dead Man would have his last great night as a member of the Graveyard Dogs with Roman Reigns against Drew McIntyre and Shane McMahon. It was Raw is Triple X, which I consider the peak of the Triple H boom in 2023 when just the Fed are firing on all cylinders. And the 2015 Royal Rumble, where it had never been any worse than Roman Reigns and The Rock got booed out the building when they'd completely lost Philadelphia and every other city in North America at the time. Now, there is a reason I checked the history of this building because the core states, the phrasing, Philadelphia, it stuck out to me. And I wondered if this was where King of the Ring 1995 was, obviously a historically bad show. And I did wonder if this In Your House was intended to be something of an apology to the people that attended that show in Philadelphia. It was a different building. It was the Core State Spectrum. It was just down the road. They were in the process of building this new building. On this show, they spend a lot of time talking about how the beautiful new facility here. So it's very, very new when it's opened here in 1996. But I love that they keep it true to Philadelphia. They might not be able to give you the same building, but they do give you Savio Vega more than once and on the pre-show and in the opener. So if nothing else, the great patrons of Philadelphia get all the Savio Vega they could possibly need.
Oh, this show is very much the ballad of Savio Vega. Oh, and Sean and Foley as well. But good Lord, is that one's one night story. But I was going to say, it's funny. But again, this is why we're veggies, mate. This is why we do this show. I went down that same wormhole because same thing. It was like, what's a core state center? Why have I never heard that phrase before? And then immediately it's like, oh, Wells Fargo. But it's quite funny in doing that same digging and seeing some of those same events where shows took place. At no point did I actually click the button where it'd be hyperlinked on Wikipedia to say what actually is a Wells Fargo. I still don't know what it is. Is it like a solicitor's firm? Is it a shop? Is it like what is it? I probably should know. Is it a theme park? I didn't go that far. Did you go that far in your digging? It's one of those words you constantly hear. It sounds important. It sounds like something prestigious, but I don't even know what it is.
I have to assume because you see ginormous Wells Fargo buildings in all the major cities, don't you? I'm wondering if it's maybe a bank. Like it could be, how American banks don't look anything like ours, and they are in fact just massive towers. And back when like physical cash was still a thing, there would be like a room that you would walk into with all of these cash points on the wall, but then the rest of it looked like this mega scary like 1980s tower block or something that said Wells Fargo or Chase Bank is another one. You see that Chase logo quite a lot as well. Like they're cooler than our banks. Even the banks look cooler than ours.
Even now, because you get the Chase banks in the UK, don't they? But it's always like lit up nice and neon. It's the Fed of banks, isn't it? Like that's pretty much what it is. When you see it on a high street, it's like, oh, I want to put your money there. It looks cool. I have double checked. Yeah, it is in fact a bank. The Americans don't need to send us any replies, but we've figured that out. But yeah, now that you say it, I will have seen like that signage everywhere in America. But like they can't talk. They've always been behind me. I don't think they got chip and pin till about 3 years ago. I don't think they got contactless until about 2 years ago. Apple Pay and Google Pay is a lot to answer for, but there are many ways the Americans are ahead of us, but we should be proud of our bank.
Yeah, like how much paper are the Americans? I love them. I miss them. I miss their country. I miss everything about it. But what I don't miss is feeling the need to sign a million receipts on physical paper or having physical napkins handed out with every single one of my physical drinks.
Physical mats.
Like it's not necessary. Physical
trying
mats.
to work out the tip. Yeah.
Well, I don't need that sort of level of effort at the last minute. I know what they're doing. It's so that I end up rounding up. I just said, don't think about the calculations. Just round up. Just pay a little bit more than you need to. But yeah.
Plus, it's not real money. Because I feel like it doesn't come out right away, does it, either, until like you've signed, like, because they take the money and then you sign and then you do the tip, and then that's not real. I mean, I know it's going to come up your bank account at some point, but like, I don't know, I just want to look like the big man to the person that's serving me. So maybe they are a little bit. Them and checks, like they hung on to checks a lot longer than we did. Like a blank check being like I'm a MacGuffin in a movie, like made me feel like I was going to run into more blank checks than I actually did when I started going over to America. But like that felt like a big thing for them until late. But yeah, there you go. They do everything bigger. They do everything maybe better, but I feel like we might have been ahead of the curve. But yeah, Wells Fargo, there you go. It's a bank. Confirmed.
Now we know. And of course, obviously, I suppose I should say, not to jump ahead to some people we're going to see here, my spiritual experience in Philadelphia attending the now named 2300 Arena. But yeah, going and seeing the home of that local wrestling franchise. Getting to see the franchise himself wrestle in the local wrestling franchise's home. It was quite nice to visit the ECW arena back then.
I've never been, I've been to Philly a couple of times. Like for ROH were running the National Guard Armory at the time I went, which was just a bit lame. It was like a big, like literally what it sounds like, the National Guard had an armory. But if you want to know what that is, it's like our conversation on the last show about a boiler room. Turned out it's just a big fucking room. I guess these stuff, weapons in and stuff. I don't really know what they do when there's not wrestling shows going on there. But I don't know why we never made the pilgrimage. We did, well, obviously I've talked about it on here before. Gabe Sapolsky gave us a little quick tour around Philadelphia in the back of his car as we looked at some different sites through the back window, the Rocky Steps, the Liberty Bell. Is that another one? All the other things that are featured in the intro to It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, basically. I saw all them, but he didn't point out the ECW arena. It feels like pilgrimage. Did it still, I mean, we're going to get into the show, but did it feel like the ECW arena when you were there, or was it just kind of like you had to remind yourself over and over again that's where you were, or I don't know, did it feel like a bit of wrestling history?
So it's a bit of both, right? Because they've obviously done it out to sort of celebrate what it used to be, and every wrestler that now works there says how it's such a nicer building in like interior wise compared to how it was if you were there at the time. Not quite the sweatbox that you see on those classic ECW shows. However, I'm not a religious man, but I would compare it to a sort of spiritual experience. As soon as you see the sign, the corner of Swanson and Rittner, already like the goosebumps are coming up, and you realize that like as you're queuing to get in, you've seen those queues from outside the arena. You walk in, they've put the very, very old ECW branding from like 94, 95 on the exterior, so that when you get in your bar, you can see the ECW arena logo. And then you walk in, and straight away you realize where the bleachers were, that you would see those same rows of fans, and you realize where you are in comparison to them. And then you can see the Eagle's Nest, where obviously, you would imagine sort of Joey Styles will be at, and there is enough of it. The bones of it as a building is just enough that it is like being able to. We talked on a previous podcast about Ghostbusters, for example, and it'd be one of a million different things that as kids would have influenced us to just been desperate to visit New York, because you are so desperate to walk into the telly. That's what going to New York is like. I've probably been lucky enough to go maybe like 4 or 5 times, and every time is magic for the same reason. My first visit to Madison Square Garden, it's just I'm in the telly. Yeah. And the ECW arena is like being in those tapes. Like for a second, you get to be in those. If you're lucky enough to go to an ECW revival show and get yourself near Sandman, you can be covered in his beer, which was like something that will stick with me for the rest of my life.
You and your cousin,
certainly. Oh man, an all-time alive moment. But yeah, it's as soon as you clock what would have been where so-and-so sits, and where Tony Khan is, and where Sign Guy is, and where things like that. And then the idea of this tiny room you're in being home to all of this proper iconic wrestling history. It gets you. It genuinely does get a hardest recommendation for people to ideally go to a show if you can, I would say, just to see the ring lit up by it and stuff. It's worth it.
Not an NXT though, a proper one. Again, ROH did run there a couple of times. We did the obviously the ROH versus CCW stuff recently, which was like they always avoided running at ROH when I was a big fan of theirs because it was kind of seen as we're just copying ECW. But then all the XPWs and your CCWs of the world and anyone like that would constantly run it. But it feels like it's come like full circle now where it's like the Fed themselves will run it obviously for NXT shows and stuff like that. And it's like it's been shut down and opened again and then shut down and then they don't have wrestling. Now they have wrestling again. It feels like they kind of endorse that history again now where it's like, no, there's a reason this building, the 2300 arena is famous around the world. So it's boss. Like that WrestleMania weekend, that was one of the many times I felt jealous of you and your cousin, and not just because you got to run into Sandman, but Fed themselves would get to run into Sandman on this weekend as well when we get into the show itself. But we've got to start at the top as we always do. Like I say, if you haven't heard it already, Housekeeping is out. We put it out a couple of weeks ago now, but obviously we talked there the road to this show. Not only the Raw right after International Incident, but also we were very lucky that we had a fantastic 5-star match review to do in looking at Mankind and The Undertaker. Maybe we'll do Shawn and Vader at some point as a 5-star match review. Spoiler version, basically, Mankind wins and Paul Heyman then, ECW on the brain. Paul Bearer ends up joining Mankind, and Shawn wins kind of against Vader, but we'll get to that later. But more on that if you want more. Go over to the Housekeeping review. But like I say, we are here to talk the In Your House show itself, In Your House 10. We've been talking about the build of a young Mick Foley. Still is young at this point in the Fed, and obviously we got the big main event to talk about here. But it did pack the people in. We got 13,000 people, hardcore fans in there. I guess it's 13,003 if you count Paul Heyman in the front row there with Tommy Dreamer and Sandman. Did they buy tickets or didn't they? We'll get to it. Does pay-per-view buys of 120,000? Does this thing a 0.48 in old money? I still don't really understand how that translates or how it works out. The percentage of the people you've got who could possibly order it, I think it is what it works out as. Probably not that impressive actually in the grand scheme of things, a 0.48. But rubbing up against what would be an AEW pay-per-view number at this point. And as you say, very much built around this rise of Mankind in WWF in 1996, and no more is that shown than on the as we always do, the VHS cover for this thing, which is one of those where I think if I owned it, it would have taken pride of place on my mantelpiece here. Not sure about the colour scheme for this one, but I've got a big soft spot for both the poster for this show and the VHS cover itself, because as we talked about on that episode of Housekeeping, we talked about the Mankind and Undertaker match kind of being a horror movie-esque. I think in all the promotional material for this show and the intro video that we're going to get into it in a little bit, they very much sell this as again in the name itself, in Mind Games, that Shawn Michaels is kind of the babyface in the horror movie here, and he's having to deal with that look of disgust that's on his face there with what the terrifying Mankind can bring. I don't know if the bright blue is in fitting with that horror movie aesthetic. I don't think you're getting many horror movies in that colour, but an interesting one, and very much centres that big match and the other, I guess, big match that's on here. A tale of two feuds, I think, is what this is for Undertaker particularly.
Yeah, this is, and it's a bit of a tale of two covers, this one, because the baby blue is a strange choice. I wonder if they've tried to make like Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker seem like heavenly figures, maybe, against sort of the darker opponents and the scarier opponents that you've got illustrated in Mankind and Goldust. I will say that front cover, I remember the posters on the back of the magazines. I remember it being on this video cover. I would go as far to say of the 10 that we've covered, that's my favorite to look at. I think that poster's fantastic. Mankind, 1996 Mankind is scary. He is a scary, unhinged figure. He's unpredictable. Shawn Michaels hasn't dealt with somebody like Mankind before. The difference in how they're presenting presenting Mankind as a threat to Michaels as opposed to Vader is night and day. And I think this cover illustrates that as much as anything else. As usual, I feel obligated to very unfairly take a pop at the graphic designers of the day. We've got, again, our old friends, the squash In Your House logos, the misaligned numbers on the spine, the weird picture choices of like debut Goldust from that stinker he had with Marty Jannetty, the prior In Your House.
Wig.
No wig, like Shawn Michaels, even, there's something not quite right about that back cover image of Shawn that I can't put my finger on what it is.
It's the arm, and it's too much arm, I think. It's too much body.
That might be it.
It's just
that might be it. And yeah, but it's like, this isn't what I love about this is as like WWF changes drastically all the time in this period. You can never quite like sort of place your hands on exactly what they're going for as an organization, as they just sort of like mess around in the dark, really looking for the next thing that's going to hit until Steve Austin hits for them. This is, again, just a lovely blend of all of that. I love it. I adore it. But the blue and yellow logo is increasingly feeling like out of touch with characters like Mankind, and sort of the way in which the Undertaker is changing, and the way the buttons that Goldust has pushed, that that blue and yellow logo, squashed and otherwise, just doesn't always feel like it belongs on some of these shows, does it? And I like that, though. I like that we're still in 1996, and certain little visuals like that don't let you forget it.
That's the thing. When we flash forward to it'll be season 2, won't it? But when we get to In Your House Generation X, and it's like that's the most jarring one for me. It's all these bright colours and then a DX logo. And it's like, come on, lads, but in the Attitude Era now. Let's move on. As much as I've got nostalgia for the bright stuff, I will say, like, our friends WWF Wrestling One, who've provided this cover, of course. They also had on their Twitter as well the original poster, which I think is maybe more in fitting with the theme, isn't it? Like with the smoky background and the kind of greys and stuff, and you get the full shot of Shawn's face there. And that, I don't know where they got that shot discussed. It was probably him looking at Diana Hart or something like that, probably, wasn't it? But it looks brilliant, and it sells it. What is it?
He's I know exactly what it is. He's standing backstage and he's looking up at a screen that's got a Jose Lothario match on it.
Or just Jose Lothario in general, wearing the jacket with his name on it. I think that's all it would take to set some this payday. But it works to sell the horror movie aesthetic of it as well. If I'd have seen that poster, I'd be rushing out with the other 120,000 people to buy it as well. And yeah, it's one of those, we always talk about it, but obviously in our little country, unfortunately, we weren't getting these In Your Houses, and we weren't getting these tapes till quite a bit later on. Was this one, like me, you first experienced the mayhem of it through the WWF magazine spread, and yeah, obviously thought it. So I think for me, I was probably, because we're getting into that point where it's only, again, time. It's a year later that I'm already a teenager, and I'm buying Power Slam, and I'm hearing that Finn Martin gave this match that's the main event here match of the year, and I'm maybe watching it with those more adult spectacles on. But it did blow me away when I first saw the magazine, and yeah, it was one of those tapes that I just desperately wanted to own for a very long time.
Yeah, couldn't wait to get my hands on this one. Every bit of wrestling media that you could consume back then, couldn't wait to tell you that Shawn Michaels and Mankind was one of the best matches you'd ever seen. Power Slam was on it. The In Your House coverage in the WWF magazine. The Raw magazine from quite close to this time ranked it as one of the best WWF championship matches ever. Now, of course, what was happening then was that it was Hulk Hogan erasure. So you couldn't talk about anything that he'd been involved in. You had to talk, that you would maybe say number 5, say Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. But then number 3, Shawn Michaels versus Mankind from a month ago, because we want to get Shawn over and we want to just talk about how this Fed's the best Fed ever, that kind of thing. So there was lots of, I think Shawn was, that's one of the reasons why he was champion, right? Like the more that they could talk about how this happening right now is the best stuff we've ever promoted, the easier it was to push to the back the likes of Hulk Hogan and the likes of, I don't know, Ric Flair and Randy Savage and people like that, because they're like Shawn and Brett with the right now and the people that you could rely. Even Diesel, you couldn't talk about Shawn and Diesel from Good Friends, Better Enemies. You couldn't talk about Shawn and Razor from WrestleMania 10 or SummerSlam. No. They were constantly having some of the history ripped away from them because they couldn't acknowledge the opposition. So when this happens, you better believe they're going to be jumping all over it and saying how sort of good it is. A quick one on this as well. Mind Games, a fantastic name. They're in their element with this one, like a really fantastic name for this pay-per-view. But in keeping with one of the themes of 1996, which is times Vader was supposed to win the WWF title and didn't, they built this match. There was Shawn's watching that number 1 contenders battle royal on Raw before SummerSlam, which Ahmed wins and never makes it, obviously. And that's when Mankind attacks him for the first time. It's a little attack and he's meant to get him and everything. So were we thinking that in the timeline where Vader wins the title at SummerSlam, the main event of this show is still Shawn Michaels versus Mankind, and maybe that's pitched as like a number 1 contenders match, or like, because there's got to be a version of this where Shawn loses at SummerSlam, isn't there? So
That's interesting.
they've already shot the angle for this. They've already put the posters out saying Mind Games. We know how early these posters used to go out because you had wrestlers that weren't even anything doing. December's pay-per-view's been called It's Time. You know, they're setting up Survivor Series for what was potentially going to be a Shawn and Vader rematch. Like, you wonder if like Shawn and Mankind was always the plan, but it was almost like a little side quest for Shawn before he could get back to Vader. So I wonder if this was always the plan, but without the belt.
Because that's exactly what it is for Mankind, isn't it? Because obviously, like I say, the tale of the two feuds on the Undertaker's end is that he's feuding with Goldust, and he's also obviously with the big turn that happens at SummerSlam, feuding with Mankind. And it is a bit odd. I mean, obviously they hit you over the head with the fact that we're going to see buried alive with them too, and it is going to be paid off. And obviously it's a factor in the main event as well. But it's very much like a distraction for Mankind. I guess the title justifies that. But yeah, maybe in that same breath, they would have made it, like I say, with the angle, made it more of a personal issue that meant this is something Shawn's still got like half an eye on Vader, and maybe we're building to the rematch at Survivor Series or whatever they were originally gonna do it. But yeah, he's got to deal with this weirdo first. He's got to fight him off. He's got to go. Maybe it's it's part of like the storytelling you could do, and he's got to go to these depths, to bring back the real Shawn Michaels, to build him up for getting a shot at his belt again. But yeah, that's probably the only way it could go. But with our Shawn, I'm sure that conversation didn't get very far before he was like, at Leon, what he's crap and he smells, and that's why they ended up with the. By the way, I've got to say, we didn't talk about it on the last Housekeeping. I do love, despite its flaws, I do love that SummerSlam match. Like the start and restarting of it with the cornet nonsense. Like as a kid, I'd not seen anything like that before, so I was kind of into it. And then as you get older, you're kind of into the fact that Shawn is such a dick to Vader and does bully him around the match. But again, if you're Shawn Michaels is the babyface and you're a kid who looks up to him, how fucking cool is it that he's knocking it probably makes no wrestling logic sense, but he's knocking this massive heel around and he's the one being the bully in the match. But I still enjoy it to this day. I still think it's a great match, even if it puts us in a weird booking position going into this show.
I think that's it. I think I remember as a kid also sharing your thoughts about, we're getting like loads of different finishes here. The match is carrying on. But my memories of it now, I'd have to watch it back again because it's been a while, and I know I've been pretty critical about Vader on this podcast, but I think I like a lot of it in spite of itself, because if you think, as you pointed out there, if you think about it, none of it makes sense. Why is the heel wanting this match to carry on? Why is the tiny baby face beating the shit constantly out of the big heel? Like, I think it's something to do with my bias. Like, it's informed part of my bias against Vader, because like Vader, and to jump ahead to something that we're not going to see on this podcast specifically, not much anyway, but they're TV versions of this. Him and Brett never quite get it together in the way you might like, and Vader doesn't get there with Shawn, and you're thinking, yeah, but it's Brett and Shawn. Diesel does. Bulldog can. Like, that's sort of Brett and Shawn's job a lot of the time, is to take these guys and lead them through lead them by the nose through it. And it just Vader never gets his Sting match with either of them, does he?
No, that's it. And like by contrast, Foley was obviously, a Sting rival early on. He had a similar story, didn't he, to Undertaker, and that, like, Sting at first was like, why are you putting me with this piece of shit? And then one match in was like, can I work him every week? This is fucking great. I get to batter him all around. But he had that, he had that magic with both Vader and Foley. But at this point in Vader's career, he can't replicate it with Shawn and Brett. There's something to that. Maybe that'll be a deeper dive at some point where we figure out what went wrong with Leon. But yeah, it's Foley in the hot seat for this one. And like I say, the Undertaker backdrop is taking place during this show as well. But we can talk Shawn, but when it gets to the free for all for this thing, short free for all. I was actually, again, we're having to use, and again, if our friends over at WWE Vault want to sort us out at some point and throw these free for alls up, we are relying on the good folk at Daily Motion. We don't want to be pirates, Michael. We have to be. But genuinely, this was another one of the free-for-alls where it was so short and the main show started. I actually questioned myself. I was like, hang on, I'm sure this is the main show. Is this the main show? And then we get going. Yeah. It's really one match and a couple of packages, this one. And it's a match that has a lot of setup, obviously, as well. But I've got to believe there is more out there, isn't there, from this free-for-all than what we were able to get?
Yeah, not for the first time in this rewatch. They show on the pay-per-view a clip from the free-for-all that we didn't get. Yeah. It's Mark Henry and Jerry Lawler having a debate or something.
Maybe it's good we didn't get it then, actually.
Well, in theory, I agree, but I also know that you're the same as me, and there's a little bit of an inner completist that needs that. I need WWE Vault to step up and help us out, just so I can know that I've seen every minute of it, even if it's just a repeated video package.
as our resident historian, is there just that there's two versions of these free-for-alls? Is it that, like, because it's a consistent issue now, the versions watching on Daily Motion are always that bit shorter? Like, is it just someone didn't press record in time to go to our conversation on housekeeping, or is it just the case that we're seeing a different version of the free-for-all maybe than the longer one?
I think there's a few things, isn't there? So in some cases, it's obviously we're watching people's recordings from the time, and they've got what they've got from the preview channel back in 1995 and 1996. In some cases, the free-for-all made it, or the pre-show, the Todd Pettengill, the countdown, made it onto the Coliseum videos, which was always super exciting. But even then, sometimes they were chopped or edited per whatever you needed. It might have been a music rights issue, or it might have been, like, I remember the Coliseum video ones didn't have a lot of the plugs for, like, the Superstar line. Whereas when you watch somebody recording it on their American tape, it would. So the In Your House events themselves would be cut up a little bit on Coliseum video versus, say, the Netflix or the network versions that had a bit more in. So it's that thing, isn't it? Like, about how, like, sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for with these, because, like, very occasionally, like, I remember this the first time I watched, I think it was one of the old Survivor series. I'd watched the Coliseum video 100 times until the tape was worn out. It was like the 1988 one. So you've got like Hogan and Randy Savage on the cover. It's the Twin Towers of the heel team, the heel captain. And I remember the first time on the network that I watched the full card, and without the cuts that like video had made to get it in under 3 hours. It's long and it's dry, and it's and I'm thinking, I don't remember this long, boring bit of the match, and it's because the Coliseum video had been judicious and got rid of it in order to fit it in the 2 or 3 hours of tape they had. And it's a bit like that.
Perfect segue and perfect home for it, but it's the Paul Heyman thing, isn't it? It's what the trick used to pull with Public Enemy, where he convinced all the sheets that they were this great up-and-coming tag team. They weren't, they were fucking crap. But if you boiled them down to a 5-minute music video or a clip version of the match, my God, could you make them look like world beaters?
Oh,
and you probably didn't want to see that 10-minute tape that didn't make it.
Speaking of them, and speaking of our timeline, WWE Vault, if you're listening, the Public Enemy had a dark match with the Smoking Guns on the Survivor Series 1995, and I want to look at that.
There you go. Maybe they'll do personal requests at this point. We're in lockstep. We're friends on YouTube.
Yeah.
Help us out. And yeah, to be fair, if you are listening to our review and you fancy watching the full show, obviously it's over on Netflix, pre-show aside. But you can actually watch the main event thanks to our friends at WWE Vault, who very, very recently uploaded the Mankind and Shawn Michaels match. Are we in sync, dear listener? Maybe we'll find out at some point. Show yourself, Mr. Abman. We would love to have a chat. But yeah, the section of the show that's not on there, obviously, is this free-for-all, and it's built around the Marty Jannetty and Savio Vega match, which, again, has got the backdrop of the Justin Hawk Bradshaw promo that's an inset here. They cut away from the commentary team, which we're going to be getting into. Vince Mr. Perfect. Oh. What a surreal sight, and Jim Ross as the three for the free for all. But yeah, Justin Hawk Bradshaw cuts a promo about being mad that he's not on the pay-per-view, which obviously it's an insert to the match here with Marty Jannetty and Savio Vega. To which point I'm kind of like, I mean, you're saying it on the free for all, and I'm pretty sure me and Michael just watched you have a match on a free for all on In Your House 8, I believe it was. But anyhow, we'll leave that little bit aside. And like I say, it's very much the backdrop for a paint by the numbers Marty Jannetty and Savio Vega match, and is set up for our mate Bradshaw to do the run in and create an extra match for the pay per view, which I'm sure you can go into the history on, mate.
Yeah, there's not a lot to the actual match. Obviously, Jannetty. It's quite funny because, well, not funny in a ha-ha way, but Jim Ross is talking about how Shawn Michaels has got one of his biggest title defenses, while Marty Jannetty couldn't look less arsed to be wrestling on a pre-show. And the study in contrast between the two rockers at this point is quite bleak.
Were you excited for the new rockers, by the way, to cut it? Like, were you like, I was like, oh, there's going to be wrestlers and they're going to be new. And it's like, oh, wait, the baddies. Oh, wait, it leaves Leaf Cassidy. Oh, wait, very quickly they become like these weird 70s themed hippies, which is never what the rockers were. It was a very quick disappointment.
I was like crushed that they were heels. I was really devastated they were bad guys. Totally. I was banging into some new rockers. And then like Jim Ross in particular on commentary would just call them geeks and dorks and losers. And he sounded angry that they were even dicking about. And I was like, I don't know what to think. Like, these aren't the rockers, like they're used later on as stooges for Mark Henry, and it's just they were the rockers, man. That's like this. Like, I love the new gear. I love the little singlet things they had. I was ready to buy in and just
covers up Marty's gut. Does both jobs. It's brilliant. It's perfect.
Did you find as well here, Leif Cassidy as like Marty's number 2? He puts on Savio's jacket, doesn't he? And he's got his hair down completely. He's just Al Snow. He's just 1998 Al Snow. When he's not not in his Rockers Club, he's just Al Snow.
Even when he was Al Snow, but then when he was Al Snow, to me, he was always Leif Cassidy. I was the one of my mates. All my mates obviously come back in 1998 and only know him as Al Snow, but he was always Leif Cassidy. And then later, when I got a bit more schmarky, it was Shinobi or Avatar. That was the other one he did.
Avatar,
where he took the mask off when he got in the ring and all that. He'd had a few runs before they got to Leif Cassidy.
No, I've been a big fan of Savio on this pod, and I've got some nice things to say for the actual match itself. But he's getting nout out of Marty Jannetty here, is he? This is a borderline carry job because of the fact that Savio's got energy and can be arsed, and Marty Jannetty cannot. They do that finish, which I hate anyway, where Jannetty comes off the top rope with the body press, and somehow the momentum carries them both over, and Savio gets the win. I've always questioned the logic of that one, but anyway, yeah, that's Marty Jannetty. The Rockers, they just look like total shit, don't they? They're just like the new Rockers are just a total busted flush, like the Zeb and Bradshaw constant beatdowns of Savio. I kind of get where Bradshaw's coming from. We've seen worse feuds make it to In Your House, so I kind of get it. Like I can see why. And obviously, this is the first point where we hear the ECW chants and Vince and JR talk about the local franchise. And Jim Ross goes like, Vince says, if you can hear the chants, that's what it is. And Jim Ross just says, well, glad they bought tickets. And you just like already, it's good needle, isn't it? It's good needle.
Is the full quote. Vince says, if you do hear some unusual chants from this extraordinary crowd gathered for In Your House Mind Games, bear in mind that there is a local wrestling franchise, so to speak, here in town, and their fans are very vocal. To which, like you say, Jim Ross responds, oh yeah, they have a small vocal contingent, and this is their home base. We're just glad they bought tickets. He couldn't even just say the words ECW, could say the letters ECW. It's... Wow, as most partnerships would go with the Fed. They are very much making sure this is a little brother. To the point where you've got to question why you even fucking do it. Then you're knobheads, but we'll get into that when we get more of it as we go. But yeah, that's probably the most notable thing. It's obviously them coming through, and it'll be a factor later on as well. And then as you mentioned, we get the beat down by Justin Hawk Bradshaw. Outside of that, on the pre-show, what do we get? We get a package for Shawn and Mankind. We got a decent package for Undertaker and Goldust, which again explains why Undertaker and Mankind have gone slightly divergent routes, knowing that the payoff match is coming up as well. And yeah, that kind of goes into the pay-per-view. Really, did you have anything else?
No, that was it. And yeah, as you say on the Daily Motion version we watched, because it does run straight into the pay-per-view, you almost can't believe that's that. But it does. It gives you the proper pay-per-view opener, which is like, I'll let you cover it, but it is absolutely fantastic, isn't it? Like the opener for this one.
Is this like I was going to mention him before, but like Vince Russo and Vic Venom? Do you think like Todd Pettingill's doing like the babyface voice on the Mankind and Shawn Michaels video, like the evil voice that cuts in? Do you reckon it's him with like some kind of altered voice or something like that? His version of Vic Venom or something. I mean, it's great. I love the dramatic baddie voice as well. But yeah, they do a great job of again setting the horror movie tone, doesn't it? And yeah, it's I'm sure it was quite disturbing for a young Michael, and it would have been for a young Benno if we'd been able to see it live.
The 1996 and 1997 ones of these that would somehow like try to tie like the opponents together or the two biggest matches together, and it would always be this like idea that the WWF was this landscape, and if the champion was like a babyface like Shawn Michaels or the Undertaker, it was like, how can the babyface look after the landscape, and what is the heel trying to do to disrupt the landscape? And then there would always be this line, like I think it was the SummerSlam 1997 one, where it's talking about Shawn and Brett and the Undertaker and their divergent paths, and it's like, if life were fair, this man might not have like been injured. If life were fair, this man might not wrestle in America or whatever, And the line here, like I would want a pay rise, or I'd want a credit if I'd have come up with, as the shots of Shawn Michaels appear on screen, blended with Mankind looking terrifying. It says, pray that this man can stop the insanity. Pray for him if he can't. And you're just like, what have Goldust and Mankind done to the World Wrestling Federation? I alluded to this in our last podcast. This is not the $1 Million Corporation, is it? These are some bad guys.
Batman villains, aren't they?
you need
it's like
some
the old
goodies
Batman
to
films.
stop the baddies. Yeah.
There'd always be two, wouldn't there? It'd always be, they team the Riddler with someone, or they team Two-Face with Penguin or something like that. And you'd be like, why are they even like together? They've got nothing in common. It's similar, isn't it? It's clearly somebody out there has been watching Batman Returns or something like that during this year. Because like, why would they kind of be on the same side of evil? But yeah, they provide that same level of chaos, don't they? In different ways. It's just the same. The Undertaker has to be Batman.
They're don't tell Shawn Michaels that you considered him Robin. He won't have that one. But they're threats, aren't they? Like it feels like the title and the company, like not the company under threat like the New World Order, but like the state of the World Wrestling Federation rests in the hands of the baby faces. I think it does genuinely like elevate the importance of the matches to think of these Shawn Michaels. Yeah, you're right. Like sort of superheroes, effectively. Crusaders trying to keep Gotham safe. That's what Shawn and the Undertaker have got to do.
Yeah, and the negative is it's a bit cartoony and a bit like of the past, whereas just a bit of the future. But the positive is, it does feel like that. It does feel like it's fresh too. You got fresh villains in the mix, which is something that they very clearly needed over this period.
Could you imagine? I'm just thinking, like Shawn and Mankind, right? And again, the video package super effective. The difference, the contrasts, like the comparison is frigging like Diesel versus Mabel. That's a different uphill battle to try and sell, isn't it? And like Mabel, he's big and he's got a big M on his gear and he's wearing a plastic crown. Like I don't know how you compare Mabel to Mankind as like chief heel, like Bulldog. Bulldog is what can he offer compared to like Mankind and Goldust as actual bad guys? It's just not the same.
Exactly. Way more depth there. But I was going to say, who would knock around with people in daft outfits or people who are cosplaying as superheroes? But enough about their current Dustin Rhodes in AEW at all in Texas. Unbelievably fucking 30 years later on the other side. He's the goodie this time. But such is time. But yeah, we get that classic video there, which takes us to, as we've said, a fair amount of pyro and to our announce team of Vince McMahon, Jim Ross, and Mr. Perfect. Might as well ask you now what you make of this as a team, what you make of Mr. Perfect. There's a couple of lines on this show they would use often in video packages going forward there from Mr. Perfect. But quite a unique setup here for this one. Yeah, Perfect was a good soundbite commentator, I think. But
yes.
How does he do that?
How does he do that? Yeah, it's like he does that at the Rumble when Shawn wins the second one, doesn't he? But so he was good for that. But it's weird. I love Jim Ross. I got a lot to say about Jim Ross in this one, and I've got even more to say about him in our next couple of recordings. Put it like that. This what we're about to experience with Jim Ross means a lot to me. So I really like him here, and there's a little foreshadow of something to come in one of the matches. But Perfect and Vince, I always had a soft spot for because I loved them in one of my favorite periods of Superstars as a kid. They were on the commentary together when Perfect was Flair's advisor. So it was about a year, like late 91 to basically when Perfect returns at the end of 92, when it's those two covering the likes of Papa Shango attacking Warrior and Nails attacking the Boss Man and the build to SummerSlam 92. That's all Perfect and Vince on Superstars. So I've got a bit of affection for them too in general. It's just by this point, obviously Perfect's still working he's good. He's not perfect, but he's good. He's keeping his own powder dry, isn't he, for the return that he thinks is coming very soon.
Exactly, and that's it. He's one of those like commentators where he's always thinking about himself as a wrestler. Like that's always at the back of his mind. Like not letting them get too much over on him, not showing too much ass even in their commentary. And obviously on the show he's there because Lawler has a match later on. But I kind of like it. It's like a freshening up. And again, that's one of those nice could have beens. I would have enjoyed him and Shawn maybe going presumably them two going 1-on-1 in late 96 or early 97. But yeah, we got that's the team on commentary. We have a quick fiery promo from Savio Vega, obviously playing off the pre-show stuff. Talks a bit in English, talks a bit in Spanish as well, setting up this strap match. Strangely with Justin Hope Bradshaw. Not long after our last strap match, and I don't know if you noted it, mate, but similar in a lot of ways to our last strap match. Obviously, mostly notable for the ECW shenanigans on the outside we can get to, but yeah, it felt very obviously in the early going, it's very structurally like the Steve strap match, and JBL jumps Savio Vega early, and there's a lot of quite brutal strap shots from JBL or JHB, whatever you want to call him at this point. That's kind of always been his style and will always be his style. Savio is very good at selling them, but like I say, feels more of a backdrop for the crowd to be much more interested in the ECW people on the outside and much more interested in the shoot angle they do. And I wonder if because of that, the wrestlers involved in the match were like, what finish did you with Steve Savio? Yeah, let's just fucking do that again, and they run a repeat. But yeah, they're going to go to the match or the angle first. But that's another thing from WWF magazine I very much remember is the angle itself, and I'm pretty sure they covered it with some photos, and I'm certain they wouldn't have mentioned the letters or words Extreme Championship Wrestling or ECW. But yeah, that was I think they talked it like there was rowdy fans on the outside or something like that Savio and Bradshaw had to fight off. So yeah, one of those weird work shoot deals. This.
Yeah, I thought that Bradshaw was only a Timu Steve Austin in the Attitude Era. I didn't realize he'd done it in 1996 as well. Like,
just copying his own way.
Yeah, that's exactly my notes. I think Savio's pretty good here, but he should be because he's worked this match at least twice before because he did it in the dark as well as the light. So, course, it's a bizarre feature I did not expect when we started covering In Your Houses, but like. The 2025 Savio Vega fan that I've become through rewatching these shows continues to shock me. He's out there. He just puts in a shift, doesn't he? I like watching Savio Vega, the babyface. Genuinely, I think he tries very. I'm not ever a Bradshaw guy, ever. No. And Savio's working to get something out of him here, and he obviously gives his body over for the strap and stuff. But yeah, the match is a very much a diet version of the fabulous Beware of Dog one, and it kind of we talk about Austin and his instincts and about like the music between the notes and all that kind of thing. Bradshaw just doesn't have them. So in all the ways that the Austin one was great, this one is lacking until Savio very occasionally fires up with his babyface comebacks and the like. And the finish being identical kind of pissed me off because they went to so much trouble with the DiBiase one to make it believable as to how it happened. And in this one, they just don't care. They just have Savio. Bradshaw looks stupid. Zeb looks stupid. And Savio gets the win. And that's the end of it. Because it is about the angle. You know, they've not promoted this match ahead of time because it doesn't exist for the match's sake. It exists because of the ECW angle. Same as you. I've got a memory of a picture of Sandman either throwing the beer or holding the beer, like smashing the can against his head. And with Savio still in shot, I remember that. And yeah, like I don't know what do we think about this? It's effective in the sense that if it's going to feel real, you have to obscure stuff and you have to keep them off to one side and like you're trying not to shoot it. But because they're working together, you have to give people a little bit of something. And I think they get that about right, you know.
I think so, because like again, if this happened for real, and we've seen it happen, like I always think of like remember the Eddie Guerrero Rob Van Dam ladder match where a fan comes in, or the many times fans come in and like Savage had fucking lamped them. But what you normally see is the wrestlers just together batter whoever it is, don't they? I think there's a Triple H and Steve Austin one that's out there as well. So obviously we know they're not fans, but like, you know, from that point of view, if that's what they're trying to sell it as, then that works because of course they both batter them. And from the meta point and the more hardcore fan point and the attention they're trying to grab from it, of this being ECW wrestlers who are going after them, it would make sense in the shoot sense for Savio and Justin Hook Bradshaw to kind of both go after the ECW wrestler. So I think they do a good job of it. It's got that undercurrent of, and is this the first very clearly kayfabe breaking thing we've seen of this is the real thing, therefore the match is phony, that I'm sure Jim Ross and Jim Cornette were probably fuming about somewhere, especially old Corny, but in its own right it is effective, and to be fair, it's a match that doesn't really matter anyway as much as Savio tries, so I guess it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things.
Jim Ross calling, like, there's a bit of biliousness, but I quite like it where he says like, oh, it's all right, they're just after their 15 minutes of fame. There's a real like dissent and disdain for the ECW wrestlers. And what I love is that obviously Paul Heyman and Jim Ross went back into WCW and they loved working together in WWE, and it must have been fun for Jim Ross to be able to take a prod at Paulie Dangerously like that. Like, there they are getting their 15 minutes. And I remember liking this a lot at the time. I've got a lot of fond memories of the ECW invasion, and just in terms of the WWE, it's you know, these are not hot takes that we're going over as we enter this particular period. Later on in the show, they talk about how Livewire's just debuted and how like you want to be tuning in on Saturday mornings because there's arguments and clashes going on. It is for the first time like the company openly experimenting with how they can break kayfabe and how they can open the doors a little bit. And like, it's I wouldn't necessarily advocate for it now, if I'm honest. Here in the modern day, like kayfabe is different, and how you choose to bend the rules, I think, has to be more thought through. I think considering it's 1996, the lines are still pretty binary. Like, you wouldn't have an old head allow a wrestler to call it fake or call it predetermined. God forbid wrestlers. I know, like, Bill Watts was the boogeyman for this sort of thing, but I don't imagine like Jim Ross or Jim Cornette would have been pleased if Mick Foley and The Undertaker were spotted getting a beer together in 1996. I think a lot of that stuff is actually still protected. And as a result, I think that's why this stuff, when you watch it back, still feels quite affected. As long as you can view it with the context of the time, like the NWO, if you can accept what the rules were back then, it's pretty cool to watch them getting broken.
Yeah, and that's it. And to that point, I mean, how mad, again, were they over the curtain call only a few months earlier? It just shows you, the world we're in at this point. Well, some people were mad, others weren't. But obviously, we went into that. So, yeah, totally makes sense. But, yeah, I think it's effective for what it is. And, again, it's Philadelphia, so you can tell a section of the crowd are kind of there for that as well. So it kind of adds to the atmosphere and makes this feel like a strangely hot show. I do wish it hadn't happened and the ECW wrestlers could have been there for the main event in the front row. Very much would have enjoyed their reactions to it, but it's cool and it's played up well. Sandman plays his part well, Dreamer plays his part well, and obviously Heyman's there as well. So, and they're the guys you'd want, wouldn't you, if you were doing like a ECW invasion type thing? They're literally the ECW poster boys. So, absolutely does its job, as does the match, and as does poor Savio, who also gets battered again at the end. It's just the job he has in life. And I don't know. I watched this the version. I didn't watch the Netflix version of this in the end because I was having some trouble with a VPN, so I watched the version on archive.org. But on your version at this point, because we have the hype video for our next match, which we're going to get into, James E. Cornette and Jose Lothario, but it cuts in with a Coliseum video exclusive. Did you get the same with Savio Vega on his back again? Maybe it's elsewhere on the Netflix version, that the Razor and a Diesel angle, obviously. Big conversation point at the time, as we've talked about the clicker gone. We've obviously got Nash and Hall and the NWO is in full swing over on that side. Depending on who you believe, Nash and Hall hadn't quite. It again, depending on the day, they're on Nash and Hall tell this story differently, but like they had a contract, but it wasn't signed, but it wasn't a long-term contract. So, the idea that they might go back to the WWF was actually quite plausible at that point. And if you believe the old wives' tale from Hall, Bischoff gave them more money, even though they were never going to go. And then Bischoff was red-faced when he saw this particular angle, which showed that they didn't really have Hall and Nash as Savio Vega is backstage, and he gets attacked by it's Rick Bogner, isn't it, and an old Kane, Glenn Jacobs dressed up as Diesel and Razor, and obviously they do a good job of shooting it because you only ever see them from the back. But I think even me, as a kid, 11 or 12-year-old kid, just seeing from the back, that's very clearly not Nash at all. To talk the angle in bigger strokes, did you ever fall for it? Did you ever believe they were really coming back? Maybe I bought it week one, wasn't even reading the sheets at that point, but it did seem quite implausible. And once you did start to see them, I was like, okay, very clearly this is something a lot more low rent than that.
So my friend at school told me about this story. And then the follow-up on Raw before I was able to see the footage for myself. So it was always, I know for a fact I never saw this footage first run without knowing exactly how it was going to play out. And the words, I can even remember probably the words fake, Razor and Diesel. And it is just a small feature on this show. It's all we're going to kind of cover here for now, at least. But in terms of this specific segment, obviously, when you watch it back, you're right. Even from the shot that they shoot at, it's very clear that that's not Nash and Hall. But so how do I put this? So when it's on the version I watched on Netflix, which is maybe the same as what you got, where like Jim Ross and Vince McMahon cut in to say apparently something's happening in the locker room. Like Jim Cornette's walking to the ring and then says something's going on in the locker room, and Jim Ross in particular is pushing the agenda. What is it? What's going on backstage? And then, from a long hallway, you see Razor and Diesel battering Paul Savio. The cameraman is trying to chase to get closer, and then that's where they leave, and the door locks behind them. So you see the cameraman's hand try to open the door, and he can't get through the door. And JR, I said I was going to deliver him on Raw, and I'd mentioned that they might be here tonight. Jim Ross is sounding pretty angry about it, the fact that people doubted him, about the people who call him a liar. Vince calls it a television ratings ploy. But speaking of retention strategies, I want to save my thoughts on this for the next edition of Housekeeping, where Benno,
Oh, okay.
The surgery will have never been more open as Dr. Fed prepares to defend the indefensible. And I'll just leave it at that.
Wow, what a tease. I don't know how you're going to do it, but I believe in you that you may be able to. But yeah, like for me, just very quickly, it never sat right either that it was Jim Ross bringing them in, like the whole Jim Ross heel run that they try and do again with Dr. Death later on. Just never really worked for me. But I'm interested to hear more.
I got some thoughts. But that's a housekeeping teaser for the next one, because we obviously have to cover the Raw after this show.
Oh yes, we do. But yeah, it's very much, I don't know, if the way they set up talking this particular show, the way they set up the angle as well, feels very much like, oh, what are National Hall doing over on WCW? They're attacking people backstage. Let's do that. Let's make it look like that. But it does look a bit cartoony and fed, including obviously on this show as well. We get the Savio Vega promo after the next match as well, but he tries to like talk about how he doesn't know if it was I'm not sure if that was Razor, and they're putting over, like, I always love that like lore of Savio Vega and Razor Ramon, that it's like, oh yeah, they grew up in the barrio together. I'm not sure they're both from the same place. Which barrio is this? That non-specific barrio where all like the ethnic kids grew up. That's where they knew each other when they were kids. But even he can't tell you whether it was really Razor or Diesel. So be interested in getting more on that as we go. But as I say, it cut in on what was the next feature attraction here, as you rightly said. Jim Cornette is making his entrance with Vader's theme playing. I don't know if you caught this, but I enjoyed like the sleight of hand of like it felt like Cornette was like, they're gonna fucking hate this, so like have me appear through the curtain, then hit play on Vader's music. Whereas you get the reverse with Jose Lothario. Sean's music plays, and out comes fucking Hans Moleman looking like a gigantic peanut in a cast-off Shawn Michaels jacket. I think Cornette knew what he was doing, and I think again they were just like, Jose, go out there, mate. You're back. It's the 70s again.
Oh man, like the two of these, it couldn't like. Jim Cornette is wearing some kind of like some sort of gimmick around his waist, like below his belly, but like designed to look like this very literal spare tire. It goes all the way around, doesn't it? He looks preposterous.
It's like a weight belt or like a boxing belt or something, isn't it? But it makes him look so tubby.
Got the spandex wrapped around it, and then like Jose Lothario, like our one and only sexy boy, like stealing Sean's pop by having his music hit, like, and it just, I think even as he's leaving, Mr. Perfect says, I think you might need to do something about that music, because there he is. He's did you check Jose Lothario's age on this one, by the way?
Yeah, I think 62, I think he was at this point. Like I said on Housekeeping, it's always the disappointing one. I want it to be like, and he was actually 34. Or he was, or maybe the other direction, he was actually 80. 62 seems about right, I think, at this point. And he moves every bit like a 62-year-old. And to be fair to him, like, impressive he's even getting to these shows. Like, Sean's fucking bullying him all the while, and he's on the road at, like, he looks like an old 62 as well in that body. And again, the way he moves when he actually gets out there too. Did you see Cornette's age? That was another thing I looked up. I don't know if you were gonna
no, what was his age?
On that Cornette's age? What would you guess? Cornette in 1996.
I don't want to think this, but I'll say 42.
A 35-year-old man. We're all in our 30s, mate.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Well, it's like
terrifying.
Jesus Christ, that is rough. The reason I wondered if you knew Jose's age, 62, is because, of course, that does here in 1996 place him as 4 years older than Bill Goldberg in 2025. So there's that one.
He's got one more in him, one more spear. But no, I feel like we should have had Jose Lothario apologising for this in the way that Bill apologised for being dragged into something decent with old Gunny. But yeah, I mean, it feels like because Cornette's the younger, Cornette kind of has to provide the movement here, and they're just building it around, because that's the thing you were sold on with Lothario, wasn't it? He's called Super Sock. Why? No, he doesn't just love socks. He can punch really hard, and that's all he's got in his locker here, hasn't it? And like, it's is it like a 3-minute match? They make feel like it's 25, and they even struggle to fill that with obviously Cornette stooging and the threat of the big Super Sock coming.
Wait a minute, Benno, this is absolutely blowing my mind. So did you say Cornette was 35?
35
in this match. 35, I mean, that's enough. So So you've just mentioned Goldberg versus Gunther. For those that are listening to this, God knows on when from this, we are referring to that match because it is just main event. It's Saturday night's main event for the World Heavyweight title in 2025 World Wrestling Entertainment. The combined age of Jim Cornette versus Jose Lothario is 95. The combined age of 97. The combined age of Goldberg versus Gunther is 2 years younger, 95. There is 2 years total age gap between those two matches.
Oh my God. And Cornette's a workhorse, just like Gunther is. So there you go. Gunther, by the match is just as strong. That's wild. We'll have is there anyone who's close to 62 who's like an actual wrestler now who's like who's quite there? Can't think of anybody. Maybe on the indies.
Goldberg's one, isn't he? But yeah, not quite at the moment.
The closest.
Right. Can we have a bit of fun at all there, Jose Lothario's expense in this podcast? We're no better than Shawn Michaels at heart. However, he got a pretty big pop when he won, didn't he? Like people in Philadelphia of all places, people seem to like him.
Maybe they just really like the jacket. It said Shawn Michaels on it, so they were like, "Oh, we'll cheer." But yeah, I mean, if anything, it's a badge for Shawn, isn't it? On his jacket, the literal jacket. That's what people love Shawn so much that Jose gets a response. To be honest, when I was I think when I was a kid, when I think about it, like, did I hate him? No, I just thought it was a bit weird that Shawn's granddad was knocking around with him. But would I have cheered too? I guess I probably would, but. They pop for it. Is there anything else to say about the match itself? It's no. Like I said, I think Meltzer gave this a dud, I'm pretty sure. And if he didn't, he should have. Yeah, no,
he's Jose's got the look that drives the girls wild. But other than that, nothing much nice to say.
No, definitely not. But there we go. That was the big sell again. And how did that get a pride of place on this pay-per-view? But maybe Justin Hope Bradshaw at the point. Maybe this is who we should have battled. He should have battled the both of these to justify it. But yeah, obviously at that point, that's where we do go back to Savio with Doc, who, like I say, grew up with a razor in the non-specific barrios, and then we go from there into what I've just got written down on my notes here, mate, as a money segment. Just the visual of it. Like the visual of it, because obviously we're at a point where, as we've been talking about the last few shows, Steve is rising. We've also got like the equivalent kind of the other side of that coin of Brian Pillman becoming more of a feature on WWF TV. You add in the secret ingredient that I didn't realize, not crime in the peep show frame. It is in fact Owen Hart. Like the three of them together, just that visual as a start is my favorite thing about this segment. But obviously there's a bit of lore to it to fill in here, which I'm sure you can do. Obviously Pillman had been building it up for a while, hadn't he, saying that obviously Brett conspicuous by his absence and the fact at this point was going to come back, and he had the inside scoop on it. Owen had said, hadn't he, in some promos running up to this, that and I think here as well, that what was the line that Brett admitted that Owen was better and therefore they made up, which is just a brilliant funny Owen line, isn't it? But obviously we have the inset footage here from TV of Brett in it, still doing the live tour, still in South Africa, who in kayfabe and reality hasn't signed yet with the Fed, basically calling it bollocks. But yeah, before we get to Austin, does that about sum it up? It's an interesting little angle to have on the back burner. You kind of forget it in '96, but yeah, he was very much Poochie at this point, Brett. Even though he wasn't on the shows, we were all still talking about him.
Yeah, I found it thrilling then as much as I find it thrilling now. Brian Pillman is captivating. I find I just bought in to everything that Brian Pillman was in terms of the chaos he was causing. Power Slam probably helped because Finn Martin loved covering Brian Pillman, probably because Dave Meltzer loved covering Brian Pillman. So Finn Martin was taking his lead from the Observer as usual. But the coverage of the Brian Pillman drama across 1996 was well documented by Power Slam. So even though obviously he was somewhat neutered by just becoming like a WWE heel, there is so much about him that colors outside the lines. Like, what the hell is a character coming out of that In Your House stage doing, wearing a t-shirt with a gun on it that says "I don't call 911"? Like, that's incredible. He calls, like, what's he say, like, Philadelphia's a sewer full of drug abusers, battered women, and welfare recipients. And Vince McMahon's like, we don't necessarily think that. And Pillman's like off the rails instantly. Like, even Owen Hart says, like, when like they're vamping and they're hot dogging a little bit together, the two of them, they're like, Pillman's just so edgy that Owen has to like sort of make it a bit wackier because this.
Be like, come on, Pill.
Pill. He calls it Pill. Like he says, like the reason Brett hasn't turned up, it's not because we're liars. It's and it's not because he's scared of you, Brian. It's not because he's scared of me. Well, he's a little bit scared of me. But it's because he's scared of this man. And the chemistry and the way that the two of them they're doing the same job, but they're doing it in a very different way. And I love watching this like the World Wrestling Federation in 1996 and 1997 is just a study in contrasts, isn't it? To the point where it happens in the very same segment. Everybody's doing a little bit of something different, just trying to work out what clicks. And the thing that really clicks is the next motherfucker that comes out here and just melts the screen like he would do every single time at this point.
And that's the payoff of Owen's line, because he walks that line, I think, Owen, in that like it's comedy and it's funny, you know, when he's throwing the lines in about Brett and he's throwing the lines in about like Steve, but he's like, and he's not scared of me. The really real reason he's scared is the 1996 King of the Ring, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like I actually don't think I've seen this segment before. I think I've seen the image of the three of them together, but I don't recall ever seeing it. Because like honestly, Austin comes out and it's the shit music still, but the looks coming a bit more together. The vest is just that little bit better. He's wearing the jeans and like
beard's filled in at the sides now. Yeah,
that's coming out as well. Like he's just starting to get those little things together, isn't it? And it's like you mentioned there about rubbing, like we are rubbing up against the possible attitude here and here, and it's like Austin has like obviously we got the famous line that's in here that as a kid I absolutely loved. It's just something I'd never put together, but like obviously he talks about he calls Brett, he's not qualified to be a chicken, he's the slimy substance that runs out the south end of a chicken, which in itself was a great line and very 1996. And you say about like the juxtaposition, it's the next line, which is if you put the letter S in front of Hitman, you've got my exact opinion of Bret Hart. That I had seen. I don't think I'd ever seen the full segment, but they must have replayed it on Raw or Superstars or something like that.
It's in the
it's in the
WrestleMania
God, he swore
13,
without swearing.
Like the video package.
That's where it is.
That line loops as part of it. Vince is raging, isn't he? He's like, whoa, like that. But the power of Austin is getting him at this. I love it, man.
What's he done wrong? He's not swore, has he? He's spelled something out. It's like parents spelling out swear words in front of the kids. It's up to that line, but it's not quite over it. It's fucking brilliant, you know. And obviously, like you say, Vince is already apologising, isn't he? Right there in the line there. But yeah, obviously we're in the midst here, aren't we? Like the other elements of this, as well as Pillman and Owen saying that they know when Brett's coming back, and they've spoke to Brett, and they're all being bollocks. The other side of it is this the best grandstand challenge angle in wrestling history? Because obviously Austin reiterates here that he's going to be the one who's going to kick Brett's ass when he comes back, and this is like something that would dominate the TV until Brett would eventually come back.
I mean, it changes the industry, really, doesn't it? What we're watching here, this is the start of everything that changes everything. Ultimately, Austin included. Austin's he's amazing here, man. Like he finishes cutting his promo, which is brilliant. Hits all those killer lines. His delivery is exceptional. And then he bails out the ring so that he doesn't want to be seen as really aligning with Pillman and Owen. It's just they all happen to hate Bret Hart, and he's almost like using the platform that Pillman's built for him, and he's not really asked about, like, you're not seeing Austin celebrate the Hollywood Blondes or like elbow and yuck with Owen Hart. It's not about that. It's about telling Bret Hart that he thinks he's a piece of shit, and if he ever wants to come back, he can do something about it. Like, what I love about this is, like, this is the first time since the King of the Ring that Austin's got like real tangible focus. There's now a direction for his anger. There's a direction that people might care about. He's appeared on commentary a lot in the summer on Raw, and he's ripping the piss out of the entire product. He's been like, what would you know? Like, there's been clowns running around here. You got Jake the Snake. He's 100 million years old. Like, all of these are just pieces of trash. Like, he's dominating everybody every time he speaks. But now the focus is on Bret the Hitman Hart. You're going for effectively the joint top dog. Like, it's just drawn everything together, and it instantly feels like a main event act. It's brilliant. This is thrilling to watch, knowing where it all goes.
Is it the July Raw we did on Housekeeping where he's on commentary and Jake calls in? And he's ripping into Jake, and Vince cuts him off, and he just says something like, it's like a sideline where he's like, cut me up like that again, son. fattier or something, kick your ass. And it's like, people don't do that. People don't take it this. No. He's his character 24/7, isn't he? When the lights are on, he's fucking pure Steve. And like you say, he's working it all out. The close to that promo segment on this show, it's he gets in it. That's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so. And he even gets in a, Philadelphia sucks because Stone Cold said so in there. He's just like, it's like more of those little pieces are coming together. And like, he's becoming like the most compelling character on TV as well. And like I say, the Pillman stuff, as you mentioned there, like they never hit you over the head with it. It's one of those nice little things that, like, if you were following the sheets or you were a WCW fan, like seeing them together in the ring, there's an association there. And Jim Ross will allude to it every now and then. But I would have loved to have seen that. Obviously, it goes further with the obviously the big angle that we get on Raw. But God, it's an easy thing to say, but I would have loved to seen that parallel of Pillman rising up the ranks with him, because when he does his little commentary appearances, it's like he's as good as Austin is at like going off the rails and saying things that you're not expecting people to say in '96. There's the obviously yin and yang of them being the tag team before, but there's a yin and yang in them as characters, as you see here as well, that I would have loved to have seen 2 years later when Austin was desperate for proper people to wrestle in the Fed.
There's a certain skill that wrestlers have, and it's especially apparent when a product is cold. The Click have it in 1995, and it's partly because there's 5 of them and they must empower each other. And Shawn Michaels is maybe like the joint best wrestler in the company and in the world, so that helps. But like Austin has it, Pillman has it, Mankind has it in a different way. But like when a product is cold or when a company is cold, if you're a wrestler that has in your work, like you don't say the words, it's all about show rather than tell. But if your work basically screams, fucking pay attention to me, that puts you far and away above the rest. Like the gap immediately gets so wide between Steve Austin and about 90% of people on the roster, doesn't it? Like with this one promo alone and with those Raw appearances, you mentioned Pillman on commentary. Pillman's the same. And it kind of reminds you of the Click in 1995. There are only so many wrestlers that have just got that about them to be able to say, fuck all of them. Pay attention to me. Hitch your wagon to me. Fans are not stupid. Fans want to back winners because it's an escapist form of. You're an Everton fan and I'm a Sunderland fan. Our sports teams lose enough when we don't have any control over it. Wrestling's not real. You want to back winners. You want to back people you're gonna get to go on the journey with. And if they're not going to win, you at least want to be able to back them and say, oh yeah, my guy doesn't win, but let me tell you why he's my guy. Like, CM Punk's going to get buried in WWE because he's not a WWE guy, but let me show you 10 promos and matches why he's my, that's like, they've got to stand up for themselves here. And in eras when the product's cold, there's no better time for it because they like leap through the screen and grab you by the scruff of the neck. And it's one of the reasons you watch, isn't it? Because you wait for these times to come. And when they do, it's thrilling.
And then you get to brag to your mates when, like, they're all loving Steve in 1918. I said, well, I liked him when he was a baddie. I liked him in 1996. There's something about being that's like almost like being a music snob, isn't it? Being in that ground floor with him. But yeah, like you, I was very much one of those people. But yeah, all-timer line in there as well. Like you say, yeah, we'll get it often repeated too. But yeah, moving on from there. Again, the juxtaposition of 1996, obviously more on him later, but this is where we get Mark Henry just wandering around Philadelphia. I don't know why. Just there he is. I say we're going to get into him more later, but obviously that's another thing I remember from the magazines at this point, like them going on and on and on about the 20,000 year, $20 billion contract they're giving this Olympian world's strongest man, Mark Henry. And yeah, these bits of footage that they've been playing on the TVs as well weren't exactly the most he's the guy, he's getting the super push. He's the guy who's incoming. Couldn't look more of an idea.
Do you know what? I'm going to say a couple of nice things about Mark Henry when we actually get to the match. So let me say a nasty one now. You're bang right. He was always shit, and you're right about the Hall of Pain too. Don't listen to what other people are telling you. Like I'll one of these days I'm gonna have to bring the hammer down on you about Jey Uso, but yeah, words on Mark Henry are spot on. The Hall of Pain's one of the most overrated and overspoken about things from an era where people are desperate to like anything that they've gravitated towards, like
and to intellectualize bang average matches as like something more than they are. People love doing that too.
Yeah. Not worth it. Benno was right.
Yeah, there you go. I'll take that. And I'll just, if we ever do have that conversation about Jey Uso, I'll just take that clip and put that there and edit the rest out. Can't wait.
Actually, while we're on this, do you know what pisses me off about that as well? Is that this idea, and it was, of all people, and we talk about Brawl Out a lot because it's awesome and we're both Punk guys. But like, of all people, for like CM Punk to be narked about, like your Hangman Page is not listening to and that, like, look at Hangman Page and ask why he should be listening to Mark Henry. Do you know? I understand that wrestling's
exactly.
about upward respect and stuff, but come on, like, just because you've been in it 20, 30 years, it doesn't mean that what you specifically have to offer is necessarily what that person needs. Like, if you're a Wardlow, then listen to Mark Henry, right? Work out what it is that makes you look even bigger than you are. I get that. But like, if you've already made a killing for yourself or you're good at these specific set of skills, like, it's not like Mark Henry's Terry Funk, is he? It's just that he's older. Like, I don't know.
You know, the football analogy, there are bad players who made great coaches, but the other problem with Mark Henry is we've heard him open his mouth and he's a fucking idiot. So when you hear him talk about wrestling and break things down, he's not one of those characters either. And anyone tells you have this great all-time run, well, we're going to be getting into that on a couple of these shows. But yeah, that's the last of them for now. This is where we have the inset of Clarence Mason bothering Jim Cornette, who's looks like he's on his deathbed here post the match with Jose Lothario, getting him to sign a document that's allegedly to sue Jose Lothario. Spoilers. It would turn out to be a very different document, which would tie into our next match. And that's where I'd forgotten that's where they do the switcheroo of like it being Cam Cornette and Clarence Mason knocking around as like their specialist lawyer to Clarence Mason outright being the manager's thrower and bulldog. Do you remember the reason why they did it in non-kayfabe though? Because like it's not like Clarence Mason was a great talker either, or like had more chemistry. Obviously, it's not very long lasting, but I wonder why they do it.
No, it's in line with so Cornette finally agrees to move to Connecticut because he's more office at this point, and as a result, they set about reducing his managerial duties. It's why Vader ends up with Paul Bearer at the Royal Rumble, and then I think that's everybody, isn't it? I think they do a brief tease where Cornette might manage Rocky Maivia. But then even that's just as for a teaser's sake.
And then he does like the odd commentary, doesn't he? Like on like that's and stuff like that.
He works TV, so at least he's present at TV, so it makes sense why he would do that. They eventually, it's on a Shotgun Challenge episode in I think March 1997, where like the Undertaker tombstones him, and that's kind of effectively it's his managerial write-off pretty much until the NWA in 1998. That's when he kind of drops back in, but by then he's office. So he's stuck in Stamford and he doesn't like flying. So he's just not going to be on the road being the manager, Jim Cornette, anymore, basically.
Imagine being a wrestling person and being scared of flying. I saw him in he did like one of his live shows in Manchester a few years ago. I got a free ticket through wrestling people that I knew. But he was on fire and he was great. But like, he made a whole big deal about having to fly. So that all tracks. It's funny that he's a man who's very much like, even when he's 35, he feels like somebody who's like, would be much more comfortable 30 years before this. Whereas it actually turned out he's most comfortable in the model environment where he could work from home. And that seems to be the best possible role for him in his later life. But that's how they get to that point, which takes us to our next match, which is Owen Hart and the British Bulldog with Clarence Mason in their corner against the Smoking Guns as we continue on the Billy and Bart drama with Sonny. And obviously the Smoking Guns are in this weird run here, and obviously there's the backstage promo we have on the show as well with Billy's very much the I think Billy's better athlete, also better talker than Bart, but Bart does a good job of selling the fact that and he tells it with his character work here that he's just backing his brother for it. But the end of the Smoking Guns is in sight, and we have once again here a bit of a weird match, Michael, in that like we said on the last In Your House review, it's like who were the baby faces here, and obviously it's a big title change this match as well, but it kind of the baby faces almost by default become Bulldog and Owen because of the Sonny nonsense that's happening on the outside. Weird match to book, but I guess they were looking for that reset, weren't they, with Davey and Owen as characters, and to move everything over to them and to pay off obviously this Sonny angle with Billy and Bart. Yeah,
I think that's it. They use the vandalism of the poster as a way to make Bulldog and Owen seem like clowns, and that they were there to have a bit of fun tonight. And to be absolutely fair to Bulldog and Owen, like to be like, I wouldn't even say they're situational baby faces because they're still cheating, but they're doing it in such a fun, loving way. They're just like really in the mood, aren't they, Bulldog and Owen?
Yeah.
Like there's so much snap into what they're doing, and they're just, Owen especially is so like, I'm trying to imagine what I would have thought of this as an 11-year-old, but certainly watching it as an adult, they're such visibly better wrestlers all the way around than the Smoking Guns. Like, they're better at every single aspect of pro wrestling, that the fans can smell it and they can see it, and they're just like better, proper. And when they're clowning around and they're kind of, their cheating's funny rather than like
totally
like just pantomime cheating kind of thing. So the fans are allowed to kind of like get, it's almost as if like that you see the Bulldog at one point like getting the fans to chant along with them, and you're just thinking like, we're all baddies, but we're the baddies that you can have fun with. So why don't you join us for the night? And that's kind of like, they set the tone, and then that becomes, and like Billy Gunn's doing that heel thing where he just screams at fans, shut your stinking mouth. And it's just like if you were watching that, who would you prefer? Like these two kind of like these great wrestlers who are having a laugh, or these like miserable bastard cowboys that are getting berated? Like, it's, you know,
it's like your mates, isn't it? It's like we always say about, like, you know, Shawn in Syracuse, why is he knocking around with Davey? Probably because he was a good night out. And it's like, you know, when you've got two mates, like one mate asks you out and he's about a laughs and he's always pranking and he's quite funny, you want to hang around with him. And then your other mate asks you out and he's always bringing his fucking girlfriend along, and he brings his fucking brother, and they're always arguing. Who do you really want to go out with, you know? like out of the two, you're probably going to pick Davey and Owen, aren't you, rather than the Smoking Guns? And that's what happens here. And obviously the reverse is true when you have female mates with terrible male boyfriends as well, but I digress. But yeah, it makes for a weird framework for the match, but actually kind of enjoyed this match for what it was. Like I say, maybe it was the fun-loving Owen and Davey dragging me into it. It certainly wasn't, as we talked about our housekeeping, the heel work of Billy and Bart. I had that same note about Billy and his shit crowd work in here as well. But yeah, they put something together quite interesting, and again, something that feels not for the only time we've talked about this, and I guess we talked about it over on GRAPPL with the European title tournament we just covered. Feels a bit non-canon, feels a bit like the cameras aren't on, and exactly that. Davey and Owen are just like, fuck it, let's do some crowd participation, let's have a good time, and yeah, dare I say it, they get a good little match out of the Guns here.
Well, it's in December 1997 when like Vince McMahon does that speech to camera, where it's like the cure for the common show, and it's a lot of people consider that the official launch of the Attitude Era and whatever. But it's in that where he kind of like, he does that. We think here at the World Wrestling Federation, you're tired of good guys versus bad guys. But like, he's saying that now, like as if he's unaware that he's kind of been booking matches like that for about a year and a half by that point. And I think like this is an example of that, isn't it? You know, like sort of it really was becoming a bit more normalized to see heels versus heels and baby faces versus baby faces, and letting the fans pick who they wanted to back, and like trying to skew the psychology of a match to give the fans instructions. But ultimately, if the Guns were more popular, then the fans would have favored the Guns, and it was obviously never going to go that way. And I think, again, like it's coloring ever so slightly outside the lines to allow the Bulldog and Owen. Like Owen was a heel in the last segment. Owen was there calling Bret Hart like worse than shit 10 minutes ago, and now he's kind of a fun-loving. He's a pantomime villain you love to hate rather than an actual honest-to-God heel. So, and I think what helps as well, like this might have been by accident rather than by design, but because obviously Cornette is now out the picture, who's a very, very good and effective heel. It's almost as if like the Bulldog and Owen is slightly different under the management of Clarence Mason than they would be as members of Camp Cornette. And I think that's something that you get to see here, that like the shackles are off maybe a little bit, or they're just like they're being wacky. So yeah, I actually think, like, against all odds, I think the match kind of works. There was two observations that like just stuck out to me as well. One was because, again, as I'll talk about in the next couple of episodes, I love this Jim Ross stuff. Vince McMahon keeps disagreeing with JR, like, but it feels by design. So like it is like sort of JR will say sort of I think Owen's the more technically sound of the two, and Vince just says, well, I disagree completely, I think it's the Bulldog. And then Jim Ross will say, like, I don't know why the Smoking Guns tag there, it was probably worth keeping Bart in the ring, he's fresh. And Vince is like, nah, you weren't watching, you should have waited to see that they're setting up the Sidewinder. Like there's this, it feels like it's by design rather than just Vince poking the bear with JR, because then JR like snaps a little bit. You know, is it a bit like how you thought that Razor and Diesel was just a ratings ploy? Surely everyone should get the benefit of the doubt, shouldn't they, Vince? You know, like that time that you were indicted. And Vince is like, oh, you are fired up tonight, aren't you, JR? And obviously, with what's to come in 24 hours, this stuff has a bit more weight. They're doing a bit of like Jim Ross has been trying to hold on to what he's about to unleash on Raw the following night, but it's starting to come a little bit unglued now that Razor and Diesel have appeared on screen, and he's getting a bit pissed off with, like, Vince can't. Vince can't lace his boots as a commentator. Vince doesn't know wrestling like he knows wrestling. And I like that little thing they're exploring. And the other thing I needed to mention, and I think there's one elsewhere on this show, Owen Hart, and we've seen this move once before. Owen Hart hits a chop block, and how fucking over is the chop block in late 1996? Amazing. It is like a wrestler has brought a gun to the match, isn't it? Like, this becomes overnight the most dangerous move in all of wrestling. You may as well be snapping somebody's knee in half with a chop block. It's so over.
It is, and it's like, I think that's the beauty of like kind of the way they structure this match, because like kind of Davey takes most of the I guess heat from Billy and Bart and does most of the selling, but also kind of gets the comeback. But Owen's role is more to play spoiler, to have those little moments, to do those little, like I say, kind of heelish tactics that are babyface, and I think it does. It makes the match a little bit more interesting. It bleeds into everybody's strengths there, if Billy and Barty even have them. So yeah, you get a bit of that. They use like with the Shawn match, they use a bit of Billy's athleticism with the big splash in the corner, and obviously the double teams with Bart leading into the sidewinder. But yeah, I think it makes for a very interesting, differently structured back and forth match. And then you kind of get to, and again, it's a weird, as much as I enjoy it as a bit of art, it's a weird night to do it, because just as you think that the guns are going to get it, it's Clarence Mason who distracts the referee, who then again allows Owen to get in. It's like the double axe handle, doesn't he? And then it's the guns who are kind of still fighting back, who are still like kind of in there until it's like their own miscommunication that eventually costs them. Like Bulldog throws Bart into Billy, doesn't he? And then that kind of brotherly frustration, cinema element of it kind of allows Davey again to be the strong man of the match, to hit the running power slam for the win, for a big pop, because the fans were really into it. And like you say, I think that's the lesson from this show. The things that are different, the things that aren't the norm of 1996 WWF are getting over. You're allowed to cheer the baddies for just like that little moments. Like that's, in a way, it's a lot of the other things that Steve puts together there over time that gets over. But that's kind of part of it, isn't it? It felt forbidden to cheer for this baddie, and that's what gets the NWO over as well in WCW. So on a very much lower scale, that's kind of what this match is in isolation, even if it's maybe a little bit counterproductive to setting up that new partnership with Clarence Mason.
It's picking up on like pop culture, isn't it? The NWO were the first ones to it, and then ECW was the first one to it, then the NWO, then the Attitude Era, which is that even if you're a quote unquote bad guy, if you're working smart, the audience are going to respect you more than if you're working hard. And that's what, increasingly, that's what heels would do, that would ultimately get them over as baby faces. And this is like a micro version of that, like to the point where Sonny fires the smoking guns, and there's no real heat for it, because that's very much old school manager having a tantrum, dumb heels look, what did I do, boss? That kind of like very dated style. It doesn't feel, it doesn't belong really, does it? But it's just what wrestling does. Wrestling never really has its finger on the pulse, and it'll just exist within itself. That was wrestling. The Bulldog and Owen being little bastards and getting away with it, and Steve Austin cutting that promo, that's a bit more connected to actual pop culture. Yeah.
And to be fair, like, again, it's obviously they try again with Billy, but that's what kind of kills the smoking guns, because like what you do with them after an act, like after they've done this in the act, like they've been, despite being, they could have been the sympathetic baby faces here, but they're very much the heels. Then Sonny turns on them rather than the other way around, and then there's the infighting with them. It's like they do feel like losers. They feel like what the commentators talk about the New Rockers, like they just feel like, oh, okay, they were part of a bigger story, which was getting Sonny over, and they're just the offshoots that it's like, all right, we've got our worth out of you now, fuck off, and we'll try a little bit of repackaging, and you're done, aren't you? Which is I guess sad. They've been a fixture at this point, haven't they? The Guns, when did they debut? 92, 93? Would have been 93, wouldn't it?
93,
when they came in. And I think we've got a match on the next In Your House with them, but then it's pretty much done, isn't it? It's more to it, this story.
I feel all the more sorry for the Rockers now you say it, because Sonny couldn't be arsed with the Rockers, and she was happy to manage any tag team.
Who'd she go with? Do you reckon Marty or Leaf? Who would be more the type?
She'd go with Leaf, but Marty would say that she'd gone with him. Yeah, that'd be what we'd hear.
He'd still be talking about a Facebook post to this day, wouldn't he? Yeah, don't look those Facebook posts up, folks.
God no,
absolutely not worth it. But yeah, as you rightly said, there, Sonny calls them no good cowboy wannabes, and then she gets rid, and then that's that. And then we obviously have we seen Kevin Kelly at this point on anything we've gone into, because we have a
once, I think,
Mankind promo with him. Maybe he has showed up on. It was a bit of a jump scare, obviously, with the news of his current legal battle with AEW going on. It's like, oh yeah, Kevin Kelly is knocking around, and oh yeah, Pettingill isn't long for this world. What a sad place to be. But any notes on the Paul Bearer and Mankind promo that we have here, which is kind of again doing that dual purpose of selling the show match later on and talking a little bit about Undertaker as well.
Not really, other than it's just a good act, isn't it? It's just a good act. Like, in terms of, I tend not to like monsters or science fiction or even goth stuff really in my wrestling. But for whatever reason, from day one, Mankind just squared that circle for me. I got it. I invested. I believed. Like, I think this is like, it almost doesn't matter what this version of Mankind would say in his promos. It was all in the delivery and the sort of the execution of the character. He just nailed it every time.
Absolutely. And obviously, they sell. The most important thing here is they're going to take the WWF title off of Shawn Michaels at the end of the night. So, yeah, functional more than anything. But, yeah, very much like that pairing too. That then takes us to our next match, which is the aforementioned Jerry the King Lawler versus Mark Henry. And obviously, as I said earlier, we've been building up the debut of this multi-million-dollar Olympic world's strongest man megastar in Mark Henry, and yeah, kind of like Lawler did with Jake Roberts, and kind of bleeds into this feud, doesn't it? They had Lawler being the antagonist here for Mark Henry. I guess the thinking was we'll put him with Jerry. Jerry will know what to do with him. But yeah, interesting pairing to go with, and I don't know if young Michael was excited to see Mark Henry in the ring once we finally got it.
Not particularly. I liked his gear. His American flag.
It's American. He's like a flag with a hat in it. Like, it's just and the hat's got a flag. And the flag's got a flag.
It's funny you mention the hat. I love that you mentioned that hat, right? Because it's a really bad hat. It's for those that haven't seen this, it's what Homer Simpson calls his fat guy hat in the episode of The Simpsons where he wears a muumuu when he works from home. And Henry, you know how in 1997 Triple H kept accidentally breaking the crowns when he would attack McFoley because he didn't want to wear the crown. Mark Henry, to be absolutely fair to him, frisbees this hat into the crowd, and I wonder if he was like, I fucking hate this hat. How much they've made me 20 hats. I need to get rid of these every single night. So he's got his American jacket, American outfit, the whole deal, but the hat goes right into the audience, and I wonder if that's just him as a shoot trying to get rid of it.
It's one of them, but it's again like Farouk. Vince is just dressing him up in what he would maybe wear if he was a wrestler. Going, you're Olympian, you just must love fucking America, so let's go with that. I couldn't blame him, but yeah, obviously, like I say, obviously with the King's Court segments in the lead up to this, and obviously Lawler's doing most of the mic work and build to it. They had the angle, didn't they? Did Lawler throw coffee at Mark Henry? Was that on a Raw? Maybe it was the Superstars. And obviously we had the slap angle as well on the free for all, as you mentioned, which is the little throwback that we see here. But yeah, it's very much like it's a stand-up comedian versus somebody who's attempting to wrestle. There's some rudimentary attempts at headlocks and hammerlocks and stuff like that by Henry in the early going. Very much like baby's first wrestling match that you'd see in any wrestling school up and down the country. Obviously, you got Lawler threatening to body slam him, which is obviously not going to work, and you've got Henry doing his own slam back, which looks like utter shit. A lot of Lawler trying to bump Henry with like clotheslines and shoulder box and stuff like that, and then you obviously got Henry overpowering him and sending Lawler out instead. It's exactly the match you'd kind of expect really there. Obviously Lawler then starts to cheat, grabs a foreign object from the old tight with hit some loaded punches. Mark Henry, Superman from the Olympics, no sells it and then puts him in there. That finisher that's always going to get over and is going to make it a gigantic star out of somebody. The weird, not quite dominating. Yeah, interesting time to debut that one when Farouk's knocking about.
Yeah.
But is it called? Is it Canadian back? I guess it's an American backbreaker when Mark Henry's doing it over the shoulders. Yeah, and that's his finish. It's not a very convincing debut for him, but Lawler tries his best.
No, it's a total smoke and mirrors job by Jerry Lawler, isn't it? Obviously bumping and bouncing around for him. Right, there's a I'm going to give Mark Henry the benefit of the doubt here, right? Because he did, in what little space between the moves, where he was either having to like improvise some gestures to the audience, work the crowd, maybe like sell either what had just happened to him or what he'd just done to Jerry Lawler. He'd obviously done enough because like the fans like do react to him quite a bit. And I think it's one thing to just say a guy just stands there and Jerry Lawler wrestles around this guy. But like Mark Henry has like tiny opportunities to make more of the moment, and he does. So I kind of have to give him, you're right, baby's first wrestler is like first day at wrestling school, but it just happens to be a match on a pay-per-view for the market leader. That's a very strange circumstance to be in. And I think on those terms, I think it's not a disaster by any means. But there was a bump in this match that I feel like I should have been recommending people go and watch for years. And it's by Jerry Lawler. And obviously he oversells everything. He bounces around. There's a spot where Mark Henry's job is to launch Lawler to the floor through the ropes, and Lawler goes flying through the ropes. But if you digitally remove Mark Henry from this shot, I swear that would look like Jerry Lawler doing a Darby Allin dive, because he absolutely fucking launches himself out of the ring. He takes a header into the guardrail and just lands splat on the floor. And if you're thinking about it, all you're seeing is Mark Henry grab him and chuck him. Everything else is Jerry Lawler, all of it.
Yeah.
And I have never seen him move so fast or take such a dangerous spot as that. It's like that. It happens around this time. You know when Austin breaks Pillman's ankle and then he just chucks Jerry Briscoe to the floor, and Briscoe takes that insane bump through the middle rope to the floor. Like, yes, he's being thrown, but what's really happening is he's throwing himself. And that's Jerry Lawler here. It's incredible. It's incredible, this bump that Jerry Lawler, it's a dive. It's effectively, if you've had an opponent on the barrier, that's Jerry Lawler doing a dive, doing a suicide dive, but he's doing it as a sell here instead. And I thought that was quite remarkable to see, basically.
He was always the company man, wasn't he, Lawler, when he had to be? It's like there'd be times, like, and I think it was on that Raw we watched for Housekeeping, where like he's in character for most of the show, and then if there's something they really need to sell, he'll just give you that little sliver of putting the babyface over or putting over whatever you know, the company is trying to sell at that time. Very clearly, he's drunk the Kool-Aid here and gone, you know, this guy can't work the shit, but I'm going to, you know, clearly the company have spent a lot of money on him. Clearly it's a passion product for Vince. I'm going to do my best to do whatever I can to make something out of it. And yeah, he does do his best.
I'll tell you what as well, let's not forget who the forgotten man, of course, of the summer of 1996, Mr. Punishment, Mr. No Paydays. They've got about 25 heels they could have used to run out and try and attack Mark Henry after the bell.
Yes, of course.
But it's but who is it but the Rockers and one Triple H getting a payday for one bump? So Mr. Punished, Mr. Downtrodden. Not bad, eh?
It is quite interesting to see, isn't it? I wonder if, like, when Mark Henry went back tail between his legs to try and get his son signed by the WWE, it was like, well, we go way back, Hunter. Remember that time you did that bump for me in 1996? Yeah, it's interesting. That's what a stable I would have got behind. Lee Cast, Al Snow, Marty Jannetty, and Triple H. It's just a weird group of lads, isn't it? It's like, who are the heels still here? Who can go out and bunk for Mark? Go on, lads, get out there. Go eat your greens. It's an odd one.
There's a bit where Henry celebrates and some pyro goes off and Vince McMahon just goes, yeah, why not?
He's literally counting the pennies and he's thinking, fuck, that's $500. I didn't green like that. Jesus. Times are tight. But yeah, Vince does, obviously, again, he's very into this Mark Henry Rumble. Spoilers, it doesn't end well, but we'll get there when we do. But yeah, obviously at this point, this is where they put over, obviously, strongly that they got the Buried Alive match coming up In Your House. Buried Alive with Undertaker and Mankind, and we got a recap video for Undertaker and Goldust as well here, which, like I say, has been like I guess Undertaker's secondary feud, but kind of his primary feud until the big Mankind turn and Paul Bearer as well. Any thoughts on the build up to until we get to this final curtain match, or do we know? I watched this match. I still don't know what a final curtain match is. I don't know if we actually find out. I'm not sure if the wrestlers know. I guess it's a no disqualification match. I'm
not
still
even
not
that
100% sure.
They say that the match can only end by pinfall. And that's the final curtain.
Yeah.
It has to be. But the no DQ thing isn't added to that, even though I think at various points the commentators seem to think it is. no DQ.
Yeah.
So like that,
and the ref count does like 10 counts, doesn't he, as well? Which is like, well, what's he counting for? If that's not going to end in a pin, is it? Like that's confusing. Yeah.
Like Vince says, "Oh, Goldust risking disqualification," and then remembers, "Oh no, he's not. He can do what he wants." But yeah, as you say, the count out there as well. The buried alive thing, though, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I was transported back to that period of time. And as a Raw taping cycle, do you remember where they'd put the grave in the middle of the entrance, so every wrestler had to walk around the grave on the Raws leading up to? Like I couldn't wait to see this. From pitch, from execution to the wrestlers involved in it.
Totally.
They're doing what? Like that. This did a number on me. I don't know if I was just the right age or whatever, but like Jim Ross again gets a bit snippy with Vince McMahon. He's like, so how bad do you think it's going to be that the World Wrestling Federation won't sanction this, Vince? And then just kind of like lets that one fritter away in the wind a little bit. But I'm on the hook. Like. This is so impressive sounding to me. They're going to build a grave and there's going to be a gravestone. Like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's because I'd seen, you mentioned about Ron Simmons on the WCW videos. He works Lex Luger at Halloween Havoc, which is the same card with the Chamber of Horrors match on. And I remember seeing that on VHS with the electric chair and how daft it was. And like sort of this, even as a kid, it's like, you can't kill a guy. You can't kill a guy in a pay-per-view. That's just not how that works. You can bury them alive, though, and this felt like this is. I want to see. I want to see a grave. I was thinking, are they going to put it in the ring? Like, are they going to? Is there going to be grass? And there would be grass. We've got an entire show to talk about this, but they did a very good job of selling me on it. Put it like that.
It was very much like, again, like the Boiler Room Brawl. Like, it's that imagination, isn't it, that runs wild of what it's going to be. I think maybe because I was that touch older, my brain was thinking, all right, how do we get out of this? Like, because again, they're clearly not going to kill someone. And if they're going to bury someone, like, how is this like magician's secrets or something like that? It was just like, it felt like it. But maybe I've been ruined by Razor and Diesel, and I knew that like not all their threats could be guaranteed. It felt like an empty threat. It felt like something that. There's no way they're going to actually do it, though. How are they going to get out of it? But obviously, yeah, we'll get into that when we get to the In Your House itself. But yeah, they do a great job selling it here with the video package. 100%.
It's definitely the right. Yeah, it was the right place to put it in before the final curtain match because, as you say, the overlap it did make Goldust. They were very good at this. They made Goldust and Mankind feel like on the same level of danger to the WWF, and like the voiceover. Like it blends. Did you notice it blended the two entrance themes of Goldust and the Undertaker?
Oh, I didn't catch that. That's cool.
A really nice little detail.
Jim Johnson's been at work.
And I can't remember if it was Todd or the other voiceover guy. I think it was Todd. Like you see the clips of Goldust and Mankind together, and he calls it Goldust's twisted entourage of the bizarre. And I just thought this is really good. Like that's a fun way to refer to this group of weirdos. They've like this is why the Undertaker's had his arse kicked all summer, because these are new dangers.
Exactly. And he has to dig deep, and he has to, provide something a little bit different than he usually would in his matches. And yeah, to that point, like I say, they've done a good job building it. They've done a good job of building the big bad. And we are early days, aren't we, of obviously Taker being on his own. And I think you're already seeing those little extra bits of like you said on the housekeeping humanity there. I think he's moving around a lot faster. I think the shine element of this match is a lot more athletic. You're just seeing that little bit more, but he's willing to kind of move out of his comfort zone here. I think Goldust for his part is good at kind of bumping around there for Taker, and putting up with there's a lot of attempted cut-offs in the early going, but a lot of Undertaker no selling. But Goldust, as well as being like that, that perfect kind of superhero villain, he also knows like a classic superhero villain or a classic Batman villain, to when to comedy it up, and he sells big for Undertaker, no selling. So I think like that was always something that worked really well as far as them two as a combo. And obviously it takes some cheating and coming up with bullshit like the physical Goldust that obviously we saw here at Heather a couple of In Your Houses ago to get a bit of offense. But I don't know, we didn't get much of this match before we get the obvious big Undertaker comeback, and we're building an Undertaker and Mankind match more than we're building Goldust at this point. I think he kind of moved from being the alpha in that partnership with Mankind to maybe being a bit more the beta, at least for this little period. But this match is very much about re-hitting Undertaker after the big emotional beat of SummerSlam, I think.
Yeah, it's a low bar, but I think we can say, as men of experience in this field, this is comfortably the best Goldust Undertaker match we've watched. Like, yes. This is way better than the other ones. They were they were masters of nothing happening over long periods of time. And in this one, the match is shorter and they fill it full of stuff. Like, I like watching the Undertaker like work out the kinks of being I'm a real boy rather than being the dead man. And you can see it in all sorts of different ways.
Absolutely.
This is the first, it occurred to me that this was the first time the Undertaker had entered the ring on pay-per-view without Paul Bearer since SummerSlam 93, when he fights Gonzalez and then Paul Bearer returns at the end of the match because he'd been knocked out, whatever it was. So he walks out, there's no jacket, there's no hat, and he's quite quick, and he stands in the middle of the ring rather than the corner. Like, the lights go up, there's a throat thrust because there's no Paul Bearer to take the jacket and the hat off anymore. There's none of the ceremony around it. And it's almost like the Druids revived him at SummerSlam and he just walked to Mind Games to have this match. It's just like he's been on sort of on the trail this entire time. It's quite nice experimentation with the gimmick. And Goldust, it's tricky, right? Like, he looks good here. I will say the gear here is fantastic. Like, he's flitted between kind of like ugly attires, but this one's like the shimmering one. He's got like the top half of him's in silver. It looks proper. They spent a bit of money on this one, which I like. But is it safe to say that like it's one of the biggest gulfs between interesting character and boring wrestler? Because Dustin's just not at it as a wrestler, is he? Like, in everything we've seen, really, I just don't. I don't buy it, to be honest. I think like I can't work out what's happened where, for a guy that is such a safe pair of hands for this period where he's getting quite a bold push, like it's something goes missing in the heat. Like, he kind of he slows it in such a way where like he kind of blocks the fans from being able to get involved. It's just, right, what's going to happen now? A punch. What's going to happen now? Like, a kick. It's like, I don't know. I can't quite articulate it, but he's too boring.
I get what you mean, because like, I think for him, one of his strongest two runs as white meat underdog babyface early in his career, and as dog that's about to be taken out back and shot, but he's still got that one more run in him, Jake Roberts type run that he has now, pretty much, or at least a couple of years ago. We'll see how it goes this year, but yeah, that's kind of where his best position has been. And I think most people probably would have thought in 1996 or 1985, coming into 1996, like, there's no way he's going to be able to pull this character off. He'll be able to. People probably thought he'd be great. The in-ring work. He'll manage that. He's Dustin Rhodes. He's been in there with great heels. He'll know how to work as a heel. He'll be fantastic. And maybe what you're kind of nailing there, and it's not something I've fully thought about, is against type. He pulls off the character massively, and that's why he's over, and that's why he works as like this villain of the era. Again, he's playing a Hollywood like superhero villain who's doing obviously the gay bait stories and all stuff like that. All things that are massively outside of the Dustin Rhodes comfort zone and excelling at it. And then maybe it's the in-ring where he just isn't comfortable as a heel, and I guess that's shown by the fact that he's never turning heel again, is he, at this point in his career? And there isn't really, now that I think about it, like as much as people rate him as like a worker, is there a point where he's been a heel worker that people rate? I don't think there has over that very, very long career.
No. Again, like, to be fair, what it did help me here was really appreciate what The Undertaker was doing with his character. So I'll give Goldust that. It's almost like, other than the character work, there was nothing that impressive in ring that I couldn't just appreciate what Undertaker was doing instead. Like, it's like, it bears repeating, doesn't it? Like, Mick Foley was a lifesaver to like The Undertaker. Like, that's not an overstatement. He was a lifesaver to The Undertaker's character, to the way The Undertaker wrestled, to what it was The Undertaker wanted to do as a performer. This is like, he might have done it in the King of the Ring match against Mankind, but this is the first match, certainly I've ever seen him do it against anybody else, where Goldust backs into the corner and then The Undertaker hits those like 100-mile-an-hour rights and lefts. Like, and it's that, like, you can visualize him, and you'd expect it from like an Undertaker years later, but the purple gloves one, certainly not. And yet he's just swinging for him because he's been doing that against Mankind. And I'm starting to sound like an Undertaker fan. I'm worried about myself. I might need to change the purple lighting behind me. There was a detail in the post match that I just thought was so great and graceful. Undertaker does the traditional Undertaker pose, and he points his hand towards, but there's no urn anymore. There's no pallbearer. So he sort of checks himself, and he turns to the crowd, and they give him the reaction, and it's like he's rebuilding himself through the creatures of the night. I was like, fuck me, that's pretty artful. Well done, Mark. Like, well done.
Yeah, I think that works of the time to make him like that baby face. It gives him like that connection. And you can kind of feel like the man behind it is not thinking, oh, I should have got rid of Paul years ago. But like, I think him standing on his own 2 feet and being like again, with the Batman analogy, being like that lone fighter, like that suits him better. As much as people remember Batman and Robin, like I think Batman as a character is stronger when he's on his own. And I think that's probably true of the Undertaker as well, and you can tell he's kind of relishing that too, isn't he? And he's relishing like these little things he can do with Paul on the other side. I'm actually, to be fair, the more we talk about it, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more next month, and we definitely will talk about it next month. I'm surprised he didn't do it sooner. I'm surprised it took this long to realize that you could have Paul Bearer on the other side creating monsters, and you could have Undertaker as like this, standalone big time babyface.
Do you know what's weird is that, like, obviously, even at this point, people speak of The Undertaker like he's Vince McMahon's right-hand man, like he's the conscience of the World Wrestling Federation, the cornerstone, when in reality, he's been with the company less time than Bronson Reed's been with WWE in 2025. But he is he is thought of as this guy, right? As this, like, this all-time lifer, even though he's only 6 years into his run. And I wonder if he was close enough with Vince McMahon to get an indication that they might be thinking of actually going with him as WWE champion. You know, if you discount the Hogan transition deal in '91, like if there's an indication that maybe in 1997, we're thinking of you, by the way, Mark. It might be your time, and he's then thinking, right, well, what do I actually still need? I've been here 6 years. They think of me as a locker room leader. I play Bones, but what is it I actually need to be that top guy rather than just the gatekeeper to the real top guys? And maybe this is a part of that. It's just you never think of him still being in. Like 6 years is a long time, but it's not that long. Like you think of him as like a 20-year pro by the time 1993 rolls around, don't you?
It's like, it's that time conversation, isn't it? Where like, obviously in this period, the difference between 1991 and 1997 is gigantic. But it's also like that. This is the only time anyone's going to ever make this comparison, but it's like Chris Hero when he was on the Indies. Like he started having to call himself like in like the early 2010s, that young knockout kid, because he'd been on the Indies for like 6 or 7 years, which felt like a long time at the time. And people kind of writ him off as like, oh, he's that old generation. He's like that guy. He's that veteran type you don't really take seriously. And he'd be like, I'm still fucking like 31 or whatever age he was. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not old yet. And he had to kind of change his branding to do that. It feels like, Mark's maybe had that same thought there as well. I would have gone with him in 1997, but if they are, then makes sense to freshen him up that little bit. But that's that match. Unless you got more on that again, more on those characters a little bit later on the show. This we get another Kevin Kelly appearance as he's interviewing Shawn Michaels. Interesting tack Shawn takes here. It's obviously the commentators very much push it again, leaning into the mind games theme of it. But Vince is talking up Shawn as being nervous here, and Shawn kind of plays that up in the promo as well. Which again, he should be doing that. He should be selling this match. He should be selling the fact that he's going in there with this crazy man Mankind. It's a different type of Shawn promo than you usually get this one. Yeah,
I like this. I love the line mind games. If there was a mind up here you could play with, there's not much upstairs for Shawn Michaels. I like that a lot. Like he was more than happy to reveal every now and then when he was unraveling behind the scenes and how he could use that as part of his character, and I did appreciate that.
The little flashes of, I think the reason we love Shawn and Phil, little flashes of Phil in those lines, it feels like the type of thing Punk would say.
Most definitely. It's Vince and Perfect specifically, isn't it? Like, I think Vince just doesn't have the nuance in him to see that as good. I think he's kind of burying the promo a little bit, but then Perfect is saying, Perfect's going, I think he's just nervous. You know, like that'll be Vince saying, bad job, Shawn. And there's Perfect, the performer, saying, I think he was trying to do something there, Vince. You thick old bastard. Like it's the kind of they agree on how Shawn's nervous, but they approach it in very different ways when it kind of comes back to the ring. So I quite like that.
Vince never had those legs. It's like the Farouk debut where, like we said, we got Jim Ross going, that's Ron Simmons. Or Laura, sorry, saying that's Ron Simmons. And Vince is going, well, whoever this bloke is, it's like, do you not want to put it over, Vince? Like, just make him a loser right away. Can you
imagine if, like, instead of Dreamer in the ECW invasion, it sent like Shane Douglas, and it was just like, oh, who's that guy? Who's the franchise?
I bet he had no fucking idea as well as a full shoot. But yeah, that takes us into the main event. Obviously, we get the casket wheeled out first, and obviously, Paul Bearer in tow, which leads to Mankind popping out. More on the casket later. It will become a big part of the match, and obviously, Shawn's big entrance here, of course, with Jose Lothario getting double duty use out of that horrendous jacket as he comes out. And to be fair, Shawn is very, very over here, and it's. Yeah, very much. He is the baby face of the time. Any notes on the entrance or the rig out? Like you say, it's the black and red for Shawn here, which is always a great look. I love the boots as well. I love the white boots with the black and the little red. I think it's red on the heel, trim. Isn't it? The as well. Oh, it looks beautiful.
Nice boots here. Yeah, I like the black and red because it's that idea that he's like it's a bit of a darker night for Shawn Michaels, and he's gonna have to get a bit like rough and ready. And I quite like that. Like, so he wore black. He wore black and blue when he was fighting Diesel because they'd always been the dudes with attitudes, colors, but this is like the dark side of it. It's now black and red with Foley because the Mind Games, Brandon, and the element of like blood and danger and things like that. But I thought Shawn's acting was very good here. Like his entrance is like a mix between like that international incident confidence, but like the good friends, better enemies intensity. You can tell he's like he's trying to stay like the Heartbreak Kid because he doesn't want Mankind to see that he's gotten to him a little bit, but there's a more intensity to it than there would be normally. So he'll kind of flip between being like, hey, I'm the Heartbreak Kid, and then his face will drop, and there's the real Shawn, and the real Shawn is like, I'm in trouble here. What's going to happen? And I thought there's some good acting, good face acting.
Definitely. And like I say, this is his biggest challenge probably since that, well, I guess Vader should have been, but he didn't really treat it like that, since that Diesel match, or at least the most similar to that. But yeah, as we get into the match itself, like, I'll even last this one, Michael. I'll start. I mean, we'll probably go all over the place with this one, so feel free to run roughshod with it, because I imagine the passion's going to be flowing from both of us with this one. As we talked about at the top of the show, it's obviously a talked up match. It was the match of the year for Power Slam that year as well, wasn't it? It's one that's very much held in high regard in internet circles, and for absolutely good reason here as well.
Oh, it's like, it's one of those matches, and like, pressure's a privilege, and it's a stupid thing to say when you're just doing a wrestling podcast, but I genuinely felt an element of pressure talking about this, because you just so desperately want to do it justice, because they've put the work in. Like, I'd forgotten the level of intensity from the off, and of course it should be, because it's going to factor into the story of the match. Mankind is like relentlessly unpredictable, which I think is such a unique skill that is really hard to master in wrestling. This idea that like you can think that your opponent is going to go left when they're actually going to go right. That's a thing you can do once or twice, not every single exchange. Like, it shouldn't be able to repeat it every single time. They move away, they move back together, and Mankind does something that Shawn Michaels couldn't have possibly expected. How do they keep going to that well over and over again? And like, the match starts with the cactus clothesline. Like, that's this thing that you normally build as a bit of a mini crescendo for a breakdown, but they go to it instantly, and it's the excuse to take them to the floor, and it's the excuse for Foley to pull up the mats like he often does, and it's the excuse for Shawn to be like, right, yeah, then, well, I'm just going to kick you in the mats, bury you in them, and then stomp on you under the mats. Like that visual of Shawn stomping on the mat, it's like the finale of a horror film where the killer's trying to stab you from the other side of the door, and you're trying to slam the door on the killer, and the match is a minute and a half old. Like, I don't know how they wreck the formula over and over again, and it feels amazing every single time.
That's the thing about this, like, because I've got thoughts both in kayfabe and non-kayfabe terms, but like, just thinking about the two men themselves, like, what are they usually best at? Working with monsters, really. Like, working with, like, they're the one who provides the movement. This is usually the bigger guy, or, you know, the more like stationary guy or whatever like that, or they're the worker. And sometimes that does, you know, when you get two of those guys together in a match, that doesn't work. I think there's a lot of examples, people won't like it, of that happening with Shawn and Brett. You know, the two greatest wrestlers of that generation can't quite figure out what each other's roles are in the match. And I think the roles that you need to figure out is that we're both fucking, you know, we're both going to create the movements here in our very different ways that are, you know, very strict to the characters that we're doing, but we're going to use it to go a million miles an hour, balls to the wall, and like, do what, if this was a shoot, like, they would both be coming at each other with their best stuff, and there would be this amount of momentum change. There would be like this need for like Shawn to like up his game and immediately get violent with Foley, and immediately, he's constantly swinging for him in those early stages as well. It's like, it's just like he knows that Mankind's going to bring the violence, so he's got to match him. And Mankind knows that Shawn's going to bring the speed, so he's got to match him and do a few high spots out of his own. And when that happens, and when they butt heads, the logical way the match should be structured is the way they structure this match, with those momentum changes and those flipping backs and forths. This shouldn't be heel comeback match. This should be a match like this, where, like the exact word you said there, unpredictable, because that's what Mankind is, and that's what Shawn's biggest strength is as a babyface in kayfabe terms. It's exactly what they should go for, and you're absolutely right. They go for it right away.
You've made a specific point that I'll mention now, because I think it was something that I picked up on kind of later in the match, but it reminds me of a promo again of one of our favorites, when you said about how both Shawn Michaels and Mick Foley are good at wrestling monsters. So what happens here is Mankind starts theoretically as the monster, but to paraphrase CM Punk, Shawn Michaels has to become a monster to beat the monsters of the world. So they're both monsters, which is why this is so good, because what are they good at wrestling? Monsters. Mankind. Holy shit. Like, I got quite emotional watching this bit back, because I've seen this match a lot, and I know I've seen this match a lot, but there are always little things that I spot or forget or remember again or whatever it is. And because Shawn Michaels, without realizing that he has become the monster himself, is trying to suppress and surprise the monster that is Mankind. That's early flurry where, like, he bashes his head on the concrete floor. Then Mankind rolls into the ring. So he bashes Mankind's head in the ring, just with like really violent punches to the face. And then he runs up and he does the Randy Savage elbow again within the first 3 minutes. And he's already hit the elbow like that normally comes as he's setting up the super kick. And what does he do? He goes to set up the super kick because he's hit the elbow. And Mankind sprints out the ring and doesn't just do it to avoid the super kick. He does it because now Mankind has seen the monster up. Mankind doesn't realize he's the monster. He sees Shawn Michaels as the scary one. He is flitting Mick Foley between psychopath and baby. It is incredible. He's pulling his hair out. He's in the fetal position. Paul Bearer has to come over and calm him down with the urn, like a baby being given a bottle or a dummy. This is next level thought from this Mankind character, and it immediately puts over Shawn Michaels as like just as dangerous in his own way. And for the stuff that they're going to get to, you have to establish that early. A lot of the stuff that happens in this match doesn't make sense if it plays out with a lockup and a headlock takeover and a fight in jockeying for position first 2 or 3 minutes. It has to start like this for the rest of it to make sense. Shawn Michaels and Mick Foley, like elite tier. And it's for stuff like this, because they know that like a lot of wrestlers will just skip to like step 10 and expect you to just accept that this is what they're doing now. Not Shawn and Mick. They're going to go 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6. It's artful stuff, this.
It's almost like Foley has seen the Vader match, and I'm sure he did, and seen, Shawn be a dickhead and bully Vader around, but like maybe saw the positive in it that I saw, that it's like, it's a scrappy babyface who's, actually bullying the baddie and being like, bringing like that mean side out of Shawn that you hadn't really seen when he's dancing around and he's being the happy clappy corporate babyface. And like, he pulls it right, like I say, from that moment on the outside, even to when Mankind rolls back in, that's when Shawn's still going after him with digs, and that's where he's punching him. Yeah. And I had that same kind of feeling in my gut where it was like, oh, I feel bad for Mankind here. Like this, that. And it's that, in watching like the serial killer film where it's like, he's a serial killer, he's the baddie, but it's like, oh, he did have a hard upbringing. His mum was mean to him. Like, this probably is a little bit mean that we're getting joy out of the babyface battering him. It's like, again, it's like, it's not quite high art, but it's, it's a bit more complex than what you used to in Fed 96, and that's what we got out of Mankind a lot this year. And
you've flagged up the Vader point at the exact right point of the match, haven't you? Because this is the kind of infamous spot now for those that know and for those that don't. They basically replicate something that occurs in the SummerSlam match where poor old Leon and his smelly mask forget to meet Shawn in the corner, and Shawn and Mankind work the sheets. But what's that doing, right? Yeah, you're working the sheets, you're trying to like be clever and that. But what else are you doing? You are trying to make the smartest observers of this match, and I use that word like pointedly, the smartest observers of this match think that for the umpteenth time, Shawn Michaels has lost his cool. So what are you doing there if you're Mick Foley and Shawn Michaels? You've already got young Benno and Hamflett and everybody in the arena thinking Shawn Michaels has kind of lost it tonight. You're now attempting to work Dave Meltzer and Wade Keller and Finn Martin into thinking that Shawn Michaels has lost his head. So you are trying to get every single person watching to think that Shawn Michaels has lost it. You're trying to get Vince McMahon at ringside to go, oh, Jesus, I don't need another tantrum night from Shawn. Like, to put this spot in here is pretty ballsy, because me and you were just going to be like, oh, Mankind hasn't followed him, Shawn's just going to go back on the attack. But those watching with a keen eye, maybe even some of the wrestlers backstage, oh, there's typical Shawn. Brett up in Canada, oh God, why is he doing that to make Mick's a good guy? Like, they're aiming to make everybody think Shawn's got his bastard hat on. And again, it's all in service of the match playing out. It's brilliantness. Like, it's in terms of like times when like work shoots are actually not just about wrestlers flexing and about trying to pop the boys. This is one of the very best.
Yeah, and explains why obviously the follow-up to that is very much, again, it's Shawn dominating, isn't it? Almost in like a heel fashion, which is what he did with Vader. He then spends like the 3 minutes after that just doing moves to Vader, untethered and unstopped. And yeah, they kind of replicate that there. How did you say it? I wonder if they worked us, because I was reading the Observer around the time for this, and I think Dave does pick up on it. But like when we did it on the Shawn show, I'm not sure. I think we thought it was a genuine botch. I'm pretty sure we did when we went into it. But 3D chess, that's what these lads are playing.
Shawn, when he gets back on top, these are like these rabbit punches he's throwing into Mick's ribs and into his face. I think they're the best work punches I've ever seen Shawn throw ever. Like, he's not somebody.
This lad likes
maybe that's it. Yeah. And to be fair, you might be onto something there, because when Foley fires back off that exchange, Shawn bumps really hard for him. Yeah. Like he's taking like light switch bumps off Foley's punches, which is obviously a bit less authentic. But he's hitting the mat hard for him. It's as if that's the first point where you get that like avoidance strategy, where it's like you can't let Mankind get close to you with a mandible claw, and you can't let him hit because he hits hard. And I don't know, the tone of violence is just so well established. We covered the Boiler Room Brawl on the last Housekeeping, and there was a similar air to this, just with the context of wrestling instead of pipes and weapons and things like that. It's obviously a Mankind trait, and he understands how to put that in, like this is Chekhov's table, right? So like he goes to the floor and he pulls the Spanish announce table out, and it's like the best weapons, you kind of not supposed to realize that they're even involved in the match before they get used. But he pulls the table out seemingly just to create a bit of like a barrier between himself and Shawn, and then Shawn leaps over the table. And the reason you think that table's been pulled out is to facilitate Shawn doing something cool. You don't think for a second, well, in a bit, that sideways table is going to make for a hell of a spot. You just think, I've just seen a hell of a spot. That was enough. I got my cool thing. And it's like that kind of construction that always pops me, because I'm so grateful for it at the payoff.
I love this middle section as well, where like it's Mankind kind of in control here. He does like the trio O spot to Shawn. Again, you can tell Foley is loving working with Shawn, because like that's a natural bump Shawn does anyway. So it's a great way to get him into the corner, to hit the punches. Obviously they go to the other, again, Chekhov's table. It is kind of awkwardly on the outside, isn't it? Like on its corner, and they have to move around it to get to the next spot, where Foley he goes for like the big running knee, doesn't he, in the outside on the steps, and misses Shawn. But again, he always took that like a complete sack of shit. Like this might be his best version of it. This might be his 5-star version of it. It's unbelievable.
Well, again, like there's an important distinction here, isn't there? Because obviously, typically Mick Foley would like run into the steps, and like the babyface moves out the way, or the heel moves out the way. But either way, Mick Foley was able to tweak it so that like those steps and the way he dove over it and clips his knee and all of that, everyone can visualize the bump. But then really to double down on the story they're telling, it's when Shawn Michaels suplexes him onto the steps. That's not dodging something, that's using it. And that's like, that doubles down on the violence here, doesn't it? It's like Shawn's getting in the muck and liking it. And this is like, again, it's all about,
it's not enough. I really want to hurt him.
Yeah, like they're chasing a vibe, they're chasing that elusive like sort of atmosphere that only certain matches can conjure. They're asking the audience to like lift themselves out of being in the Core States arena in Philadelphia, and instead almost like feeling a bit awkward to watch, because it's I'm watching something pretty nasty here. Like all their white meat HBKs maybe just as bad as the baddie. Like it's they're asking big questions of the crowd.
Oh, massively so. And like I say,
sorry.
Oh, go on.
This is the point when so they're talking about how like Foley might be in real trouble with the knee, and then Michaels hits the chop block, and again it's that double treble down, like he's not afraid, and we know we've already sort of put over the chop block, and Foley rolls onto the casket which has been left at ringside, and Michaels just picks his leg up and smashes his knee against the wood. He's being opportunistic with the weapons around him, and when Earl Hebner says, "How is Shawn?" Shawn swings at him, and it's just, whoa, all right. And it's just like, there can be no confusion about what kind of mood Shawn Michaels is in. And in 1996, there's probably never a better time to play with that.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Like I say, the casket's a weird one in that they've used it for Foley's entrance, and obviously we're going to use it for the post match as well. But why it's there, why not use it? To be part of the violence. And yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect for that spot. And like I say, if we're working the sheets, we're now kind of fully in character with, the angry real life Michael Hicklebottom might do that with Earl, but the character in this moment is so swept up in this and is clearly going for blood with Mankind that it works perfectly there too.
I think Hiroshi Tanahashi has said before that Shawn Michaels is one of his favorites. Was it this match? Because the dragon screw that Shawn Michaels delivers here is Tanahashi level. The one where he just snaps Foley in half with it, and Foley crumples off it. It's such a good execution and sell. The two of them are in such lockstep over how to make a dragon screw in 1996 fed. The dragon screw, do you know what I mean? How are you going to make that count? Magic. And again, Michaels, the Hurricane Rana he goes for. Foley's counter into the stun gun is only really because his knee buckles and he falls backwards, and it's more kind of a bit of luck on Mick Foley's side. And then just if you're thinking, you know what, I might be a bit sympathetic for this guy. No, he rolls out to Paul Bearer, who hands him a sharp object, and Mick Foley goes from baby back to psychopath by stabbing the feeling back into his leg. And it's just what are you in? What have we opted into at this point? It is nothing like anything you've seen before in a WWF main event.
It's amazing because it sells the work that Shawn had done on the knee, obviously it's a figure four. He does a single Boston crab here as well, and they'd never let go of that thread. It's not for the sake of it. It's to build to that spot. It's to show that little bit of weakness of Mankind, or maybe to show that despite his violence, despite the fact that Shawn has beaten Foley's violence with more violence, Shawn is just that little bit more cultured, that little bit more targeted, whereas Mankind's a little bit fucking off the wall and you don't know what he's going to do next. Shawn almost half remembers he's a wrestler and kind of, proper works it. Kind of in a very Bret way, the way he goes up to the knee in that stretch. And it's a great payoff to it as well.
There's a great sort of so Foley's, I say come back into the match, but really Shawn's desperation means that the heat segments are relatively short. Again, as you pointed out, this unconventional nature sort of follows the match through. Just when you think Foley's going to have a sustained period of heat, it doesn't really happen. And we actually, again, Shawn does this amazing thing. He puts all of the Shawn Michaels stuff in different parts. So you get the elbow in the first 3 minutes, and you get obviously the super kick tease that leads to everything else. But you get that opening Shawn Michaels rope running flurry when he's normally going 100 miles an hour in the first, what we saw in the last Housekeeping against Smoking Guns that he likes to open his matches with. He does it in the middle here. So Mick Foley's not ready. Mick Foley thinks he's been able to beat down Shawn Michaels, and then he just does that beautiful rope running where he slides under the legs, and it angers Mick Foley and it draws Mick Foley back into him, and it ends up, I think it leads to the spot where Shawn drop toe holds Mick Foley back into the stairs again, and it's just a case of Shawn being economical with the space, and he started to use what is normally the fun party stuff does to get the crowd in the mood. He's now using it a bit more as a rope-a-dope. It's almost like he's gone into that as his toolkit rather than just because he's fun and flashy. It's actually, this is a skill set that is going to benefit me now. I'm faster than him. I'm leaner than him. I'm quicker than him, and I can catch him out. And I think that, again, it's that really fine line they walk between selling Mick Foley as a monster, but Shawn being a babyface that can't run away. You can try and escape. You can try and escape the mandible claw, and you can try and do what you can to get that thing from being in your mouth. But you can't just run from Mankind. Otherwise, the fans are not going to buy you as the conquering hero. You say about Batman or whatever. The only point at which heroes cower is when they're at the lowest ebb. It's always about marching forward into the danger. And I think Shawn, I don't know. I think he threads that needle quite well here.
He does, and that's the beauty of the match. Like they're both great at that, aren't they? But it's like, yeah, there's like that extra level of detail there, and obviously, this is the point where obviously we get to some of the bigger spots in the match. This is where we get Mankind there. Obviously, after we're at the steps on the outside. This is where he does the trap between the two ropes thing, where he goes for the clothesline and catches himself. Like he does this a lot. Obviously, in the Vader feud, it's a big thing he does. He does it in the Sting feud, and he's obviously lost his ear off doing this spot before. You can tell there's been a conversation at some points backstage of like, I'm probably going to be really stuck here, lads. So if that happens, please help, because like it's immediate, isn't it? Like as soon as Foley's in there, Shawn's over there and the ref's over there, and I don't know what your read on this, whether it's a planned spot that they were always going to go to. Foley was going to grab the mandible claw, and that was going to be their way into it. But like, it also covers for the fact that Shawn's really actually having to try and help him out of the ropes, and the refs having to try and help off the ropes as well. But like, isn't it? It's like it reminds me of like when I used to have my cat, or you have any animal where like say they're stuck somewhere, and like you're trying to help them, but what they're fucking going to do is claw your eyes out for even daring to come near them because it's your fault. He's like that, like a fucking trapped animal. And whether Shawn's an enemy or a friend in this moment, and I guess in kayfabe terms he's an enemy, but it works either way, he's going to fucking lash out. And of course, despite the fact that he's the one in trouble, he's going to use that opportunity to grab the mandible claw. It speaks to the obviously the psychology of the character there in juxtaposition to everything we just said about Shawn.
That's a great analogy, the trapped animal, because like Foley, I don't know if this was by accident or by design, but when he gets his head trapped, his face is facing the hard camera, and for a split second, you see how wide Mankind's eye is in the gap in the mask, and he looks scared. And again, it's the idea of like, again, Mick Foley playing with this character, the duality of this Mankind character in this match. It's not like the Undertaker feud. In the Undertaker feud, he can just be all darkness and hatred because he's got this like bit between his teeth about the Undertaker being evil, whereas against Shawn Michaels, like he's as much the monster as he is the terrified victim, and this is probably the spot that exemplifies that the most. And again, as you say about the lashing out, the mandible claw is kind of just lashing out. It's a defense mechanism rather than this brutal assault that disables his opponent. He's doing it to defend himself, and the
shows he's never dead, doesn't it?
That's it. It's like it's a nice smoke and mirrors thing to get him out the ropes, but it's the first point at which Michaels is greeted with the mandible claw. And it's almost, you could argue that Shawn is either Shawn in kayfabe, I guess, by going towards Mankind to take advantage while he's trapped in the ropes. Shawn's been punished for his aggression because he's gone close enough to get the claw on him. And that's, again, it's a way he's got to adjust himself and he's got to think about it. And obviously ahead of the next big things that I'll let you get to, that becomes the fifth, sixth story in the match is like, right, you are then, I'll destroy the mandible claw. I'll break your hands. Like to get to that in what is most definitely the final third of the match. You've watched enough wrestling to know that you're entering like the final third and only just getting to, I'm going to break your fucking fingers, pal. Like that's bold stuff to leave that late, but they earn it. It's only at this point that Shawn thinks, right, well then change strategy. I'm going to go for that.
It plays perfectly because exactly that, he's realized that weapon can come from anywhere. Because, like, obviously, they're a bit liberal with the rules here, with Paul Bearer getting involved and allowing, I guess, Shawn to do whatever he wants. But like, the chair shots themselves are brutal. But again, it's like that, like I said earlier, that difference in character in that Mankind is kind of wild and all over the place, and Shawn has been dragged into this game, but he's still a wrestler. So when he's got the chair and when he's fucking swinging, and he is swinging a bit crazy here, what's he going to swing for? Exactly what you said. He's going for the leg that he's already hurt, and he's going for the hand. He's going to work over the mandible claw hand as put over on the commentary. He's stomping the hand. It's like, again, even if like you can't imagine taking a flat back in wrestling, you can imagine your hand being standard, can't you? And there's just something about it that just makes you wince because there's work to it, but not that much work with Foley. He's leaving his hand there, and it's like Bearer's selling it on the outside as well, isn't he? Like screaming, not his hand, not his hand, and it's just fucking, again, it takes the match to another level of brutality, while exactly as you say, like tells that story to it, adds that extra story layer to it of what Shawn is actually gunning for it. It's not just violence for violence sake, at least from his point.
And he's pulled the claw thing off Foley's fingers as well, which I think must have been the first time that had happened to the Mankind character.
Because he used to sell it as one finger, didn't he? Like he's always got one finger there. It's like he very clearly got two. He's very clearly got two. That's two fingers. We can all tell.
But that's again like
first time.
It's Shawn trying to like make the monster less of a monster, you know, like kind of like trying to pull one of those things away, like like make him human, like literally tear away at the mystique of this character and physically break him down. And I love so much that when Foley reclaims control, now that his hand, he's like trying to shake off the pain, the mandible claw might no longer be his chief weapon. So what are the two moves that he hits Shawn Michaels with? The pulling pile driver and the double arm DDT, his other two finishes. Right, you bastard. Like, you've tried to do this. Did you think that was all I had? Did you think that was all I had? Because I can completely, like, I can disarm you as well with this and this. And I think it might be JR. It probably is JR. But one of them says, like, you know, like, and let's not ignore that Mankind's like pro wrestling ability, because he's not one for the moves that much in this character, but he hits those ones with aplomb and he hits them decisively and he kind of puts Shawn on the mat with them. There's a friggin' there's a cradle. He does that move to like sort of reveal an amateur background that we may or may not know about, you know, when he kind of like dives into that like half Mahistral pinfall, and like what a time to do that. Like
Dominic DeNucci told him that day one.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I've not got my claw, but I've just hit you with my double arm and I've just hit you with my pulling power driver. And now check this out, you cunt. Like, what are you going to break on my body to stop me getting you with a cradle? It's like, I just think that's so, like, the little reveal of the sort of the in-ring intelligence of a Mankind. And again, all it does is add another string to his bow and it creates a new problem for Shawn Michaels, doesn't it? Like, here's another puzzle for you to solve. Here's your 10th puzzle to solve in this match that we've had, which is just full of different challenges that you've got to try and overcome. It's brilliant, man. And like the casket is so interesting in this, because like obviously the like Foley at this point is exhausted. He believes he's exhausted all his opportunities. He's tried to pin.
They're telling two stories, aren't they? They're telling the story of like, you know, on the one hand, Foley's having to pull out these new weapons, but on the other hand, they're still not working. So Foley, as much as he's pulling out these new weapons or old weapons, as far as the finishes go, and that's when he's having to resort to, all right, fuck it, I'm going to get a load of chairs. And when that doesn't work, when El Hebner gets old, fuck it, we're going to use the casket. Like, it makes logical sense, the escalation.
The blocking, it always impresses me when wrestlers have to get to certain parts of the ring and have to work around situations they've created for themselves, because they've had to, I'm sure they've gone out in the ring earlier in the day and like planned it out, but they've got to ultimately imagine it and then hope it works out on the night. And I just admire so much how we got to the big spot that's about to come. So like Foley opens the casket to roll Shawn into it, which is important because it's quite late in the match to see that the casket's empty, and you know, more on that shortly. Like, there's nothing to worry about for Mankind in that casket, or so we think. So Shawn gets to roll into it. That gets a big response, but the response fires Shawn up. He doesn't want to be put in a casket. So he goes, like, he fires all the way back. He goes to his like kip up forearm routine, which yet again, you've seen enough Shawn. You think you know where this is going, but he goes for a splash rather than an elbow, which means like, because you can see he's going for the elbow, but Foley gets back to his feet. So Michaels hits the body press, and now he's going to go up and hit yet another elbow. But that's when Foley crotches him, which just happens to leave Shawn Michaels there. And what happens when he leaves Shawn Michaels there? Foley greets him on the outside, and the two of them tumble through the table that was left there before. This is so brilliant. And we have been so blessed to talk about Bret Hart at the Survivor Series, Shawn Michaels at Good Friends, Better Enemies, and this one here, because they used to be, I don't want to sound like an ancient podcaster, but there used to be such a fucking art to going through a table in the WWF. Like, goddamn, they made you work for it, and goddamn, they made you think about it. Think about the 5 moves that it took to convincingly put Shawn and Mick in that position to fall through the table in that specific way, and for it to feel like something that has happened to them, not something that has required a ton of different setup. Like it did used to be better in this regard, didn't it? Like the wrestlers used to ask more of themselves to earn a spot like this, rather than just right table time.
Yeah, and not just that, it's like, obviously, the setup is all there, and like you said earlier, the setup of even getting the table there in the first place, that like you see it on some of the wide shots, but you kind of half forget that it's there because like there is that little moment of fear at first when they're going for the superplex, and then they both tumble. Like, where are they both going to land? What are they going to do? But like that was always like a thing Foley always tried to do, isn't it? You mentioned like the splash from Shawn, but he always said that like when he did something off the top, he always thought of snooker, and he always wanted it to have that. It wasn't necessarily the flips or how high he got; it was about the splat. And I think he takes that logic to bumps like this. It's like how could we obliterate this table as horribly as possible? Well, it should be both of our body weights, and if anything, it's mostly Mick taking the bump, isn't it? It's mostly Mick taking the hard end of it. But the fucking there's just something visceral about the way the table breaks, like in this period, or like we said that about the Shawn and Diesel match, or Diesel and Brett as the other one at the time. Like there's something more to it, isn't it, than your just standard table bump, both in setup and execution.
There's just like, and I praised this when we did Good Friends, Better Enemies. There's just shit everywhere when they go through these tables. And I think that's like when the wrestlers emerge from the wreckage. Yeah, it's so much more convincing when they're kind of trying to get up, but there's a wire around their leg or there's a monitor on one of their arms or something like that. It's so much more chaotic and it's so much more, it pulls the fans in more because the fans are wondering how on earth, like what more can these do to each other that this thing has happened? And especially because in the Shawn and the Brett examples, it's integral to the finish. It's pretty much, it's the signifier that the finish is coming, that the wrestlers have gone through the table. So again, it's like, it's placed in there. And, you know, obviously...
It's a culmination, isn't it? Rather than just a spot for spot's sake earlier in the match, which is probably more what you get now.
And because, again, like, they've been really smart about when they've brought chairs or when they've, like, Shawn's used it because one's happened to be to hand, but then he's left it there so that when the chair that was in the ring that can just be set up was, like, something we hadn't thought about before, the one that Shawn leaps off of to hit Foley with a super kick, who's arrived with a second chair. That first chair needed to be introduced earlier on in order for Shawn to do the springboard thing. And we documented this when we talked about Raw on the Roof. Shawn was watching ECW and he was waiting to nick something from Sabu, and he was trying to pinch something from this guy Rob Van Dam he'd heard about, and he waited and he picked his spot and he made it make, like, is this the most making sense version of a Van Daminator you've ever seen in your friggin' life? It's fucking brilliant.
Triple jump super kick, like, or like Van Daminator super kick, or whatever you want to call it. Exactly that. Like, that's 100% what he's been doing. But exactly, he's thought that. He's like, well, I'm going to make it logical sense. It's not just going to be a move for move's sake. It's going to be my finish. And when am I going to use it? When I have to take care of this fucking monster. When I have to, you know, pull the last little, you know, bit of the most violent thing I possibly can out. That's when I'll do it. And again, it comes after the accumulation of everything else here. That is very, and again, do you think it's a coincidence he's doing it in Philadelphia? I don't. Like,
nah,
he's clearly,
definitely not.
It's
no
a nod. Maybe it's probably not a nod with Shawn. It's probably more of a diss, but it's interesting that's where it gets paid off.
It's he's blatantly, isn't it? Like, hi, Dreamer, Sandman, stick around. I know, like, we've had to kick you out the arena, but stick around the building because I want to teach you how to work. Like, this is how you actually. I'll do your shit better than you in one night. Basically, this is how you actually do it. Welcome to the big leagues. And I don't wish to forward an agenda or anything, Benno. But obviously, we're going to talk about how devastating the finish is. Of course, the DQ is gut wrenching. As a fan of this match, gut wrenching. But Leon's not exactly on time, is he? Running down for that interference. Oh my God.
Oh, sure. Like, it's funny. Like, it never looks better. Like, because he obviously hits that big super kick, and then it's just like, it's like it takes 6 years because he knows he's like, well, Leon's not coming. Well, I'll go to my knees and then I'll go gingerly for the cover. Is he fucking here yet? And then he's still not here. So he just has to stand up, doesn't he? And it's like, what else can you do in the moment? It's like, it's a real killer. Like, and it's funny because, like, I think I saw this match so long after it was already talked up as like this 5-star classic, and maybe it is that. Like, I just, not a spoiler, I guess we've done the match. I don't think it's 5 stars, and it's because of this finish. I think a lot of people would say it's 5 stars despite the finish. Maybe that's what you're going to say, but I think it just immediately makes it can't knock more than 0.25 off it for me. But it does not 0.25 off on me. It's like it in 2 ways. In the one, like you say, the gut punch of it being a DQ after everything that we've gone through. But it's the execution of it, and like the irony is, and I am the defender of Leon White on this podcast. The irony of it, it's not Foley's fault. It's not Shawn's fault. It's just the bad timing of the finish, isn't it? And obviously, speaking of WrestleMania 8, Sid's is it much better after as well for the smarge that comes. Like, I can't with a straight face say it doesn't hurt the match. I think it does, but maybe I think the consensus is not that. I wonder whether you're more in that league.
I think in some respects, this match is a reason why something like GRAPPL is like a much missed aggregator, because I think this is better than a 4.75, but the finish makes it a 4.99. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, fair.
It's its own thing. It's its own thing. The match is so incredible that it's cruel to the body of the work to like punish it for a couple of wrestlers being late, but also punish it for the booking, because like, I don't know this, but you would like to think that maybe Shawn and Foley in their own ways would have campaigned for just a finish. Like, Mankind was never afraid of a job. Like, maybe he'd have said, you know, it's okay for Shawn to pin me because we're going to Buried Alive and I'm main eventing, and the Undertaker is telling you that you've got a star there in Mankind. Like, I don't know that, but I can understand why they went with the DQ, but it's like,
it's a casual of the timing, isn't it? To speak of all the moving parts that got us to this match.
Definitely.
Like, if this match took place 3 months earlier, there wouldn't be a problem, would it? 2 months later, there wouldn't be a problem. I'm sure it was never, I guess.
And
it just causes a problem, doesn't it?
It's to their immense credit that even knowing the finish, they wanted to go out and have a match this good.
True.
You know what I mean? Like, you could watch this, and if you showed this to somebody that didn't know about it or had never seen it, and then you switched it off, like, as soon as Shawn hits that super kick and you switch it off and you say, what's the finish? They're either going to say, well, Shawn pins him after that, or they're going to say, whoa, how does Mankind beat him after that? Nobody's going to go shitty DQ with a late run-in. Nobody's going to think that, because the match has been too good. It earns a finish and it deserves a finish, and it's that's robbed from it, and I feel harsh taking something away from it as a mark. But it's not a perfect match, so I can understand you know, a perfect match is 5 stars, and whatever your own little subjective rating is, this isn't a perfect match because of that finish, but it's perfect work from Shawn Michaels and Mick Foley.
Yeah, it's not their fault in any way, is it? It's just the circumstance of it. But it's how good was it? How good is it though to just watch? It's just, it's that I always think of, like, when I think of like physical charisma that like wrestlers have, or physical chemistry, most of the point wrestlers have with each other, again, because it wasn't that long ago. I think you got a little glimpse of that with a Carter and Omega at All In a few weeks ago. Like, there's rare combinations that you get that with, even with some of the matches not living up to their expectations. You kind of get it with Shawn and Brett. There's something about their bodies that just gels together when they're grappling, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like, I wish there was more Shawn and Mick, because I feel like you get that here. There's a knowledge of where each of them are going to be and how they can each make each other's offense look brilliant. Like, it's, in a way, it works as like a basically one-time ever match, because, you know, where could you go from here? This is the most violent you can be, really, in the confines of 1996 WWF. And like, how would you put a hat on a hat? How would you go higher than this? Like, it's, I guess, you know, it's perfection as far as the work goes, so you can't really build off it. But I would have still liked to have seen it. I would have still like to have seen the two of them just interact that a little bit more, and just show off like this very clear immediate chemistry they had. I'd like to think Shawn didn't go back and go, he's shit and he stinks like he did with Leon. I'd like to think he went back and went, he's fucking good, him. Or maybe he knew already from the house shows and stuff, but like, he must have known, like, that, you know it when you're in the ring with somebody like that, and like that chemistry was just so much there that it's a travesty there isn't more of this.
So we might get
standalone. It's both.
We might get 2 more opportunities here with these two, because this is what we haven't mentioned yet, is that Mind Games is the start of In Your House returning to the format of the old In Your Houses, where the entire roster would work the show, but half of it would be in dark matches. That's true. We're going to get back to trying to like track down, I guess, like some of the previously unreleased dark matches on In Your Houses. And at December's It's Time, Shawn and Mankind have a brawl to close out the show. I've seen it once. It's on a rarities collection somewhere out there. It's only okay, but you might remember the entrance of Shawn walking to the ring and spitting water out his mouth with the In Your House setting in the background. It was non-televised, and it's that one. He's being an arsehole, but that's that match. But they're it's just impeccable matchmaking. Have you seen their TV match from 1997, just after Shawn's turned heel on the Undertaker at SummerSlam, or like he's turning heel? So it's like,
you know what? Now that you say it, I forgot that even existed. Of course,
and if somebody wants to do us a solid for housekeeping, because what that does is Shawn hasn't yet turned heel, but they explore the idea of who's actually the bigger monster here, because at this point, Mankind's turned babyface. So the fact that Shawn is being more violent, it's now coming across that Shawn's kind of being a bit of a bastard and he's enjoying the violence, whereas Mankind is just Mankind. And the way they play with that, I think it's in between. So it's the week before Shawn and Hunter team up for the first time against The Undertaker and Mankind, and it's pitched as a bit of a strange bedfellows match. But what it really is the first night that DX get to work together, and like they smash The Undertaker over the head with a chair. But Shawn does it on purpose this time, and it's all a build to that, and it's really, really cute matchmaking. It's not forgotten exactly because it's a Monday Night Raw main event, but it's not one that people talk about, and it's
angle.
It's very interesting. Yeah.
Now that you say it, because like it was cool to just, I know, I'm sure we covered it in detail, but it was just cool to see like Shawn have a dickhead Shawn have a mate in Hunter, and Hunter, you know, to kind of bring a bit more personality out. And like, yeah, that's the first night where it's like, oh, there might be a bit of chemistry there with them two on the same side. And the way they get there is, because obviously Mankind's an enemy of Triple H. I hadn't thought about that as a match. I guess, there you go. We'll do, please, somebody, maybe I'll do it. That's my 5-star match review, Michael. It's my my request to dig in. And we could dive into the angle at the time too as well. We'll have to remember that when we get to 97.
Oh, you know what? We've got so excited. The dead man. We've got to talk about the pop the dead man gets. Mankind tries to roll Shawn into a casket, and they open the lid, and the Undertaker's there, and it's a massive pop, isn't it? It's like a genuinely like nice moment to at least hide the DQ a little bit. And then after, what I love is that obviously Taker and Mankind have their great brawl, and it's a really nice way to segue the Undertaker back into the Mankind story. And Paul Bearer is shitting himself, and he runs away. And when Shawn is posing in the ring after the match, Vince is just already saying it's historic. He says it might have even been more grueling than WrestleMania. And I'm thinking, well, it wasn't as grueling as experience to watch, so it's got that over it. But then like Jim Ross, I love 1996 Jim Ross. I love how much he is backing the version of the World Wrestling Federation that he is trying to create with all of his wrestlers. Like he knows, he's fucking told Vince McMahon to sign Mankind. And Vince said to Jim Ross, this is going to break your heart, Jim. And Jim's like, shove up your fucking ass, Vince, because I've just signed you a star here. And like, oh, by the way, Steve Austin was on this show. And like, by the way, all of these guys are getting better. Owen Hart's getting better wrestlers to work with. And by the way, Brian Pillman's like the next big thing. And by the way, Wildman Mark Mero brought, well, my batting average isn't perfect, but by the way, look at all these guys I've brought in. And then he's just like talking about Shawn. This right here is the man that you have just watched this match. There can be no question that the best world champion in wrestling is Shawn Michaels. Hulk Hogan, go fuck yourself. Like Jim Ross believes in the World Wrestling Federation here more than I do. Like there is a guy, I mean, his career is he's flexing, right? It's for his own benefit. But like that commentary is so real. Like Jim Ross is daring people to be like, tell me that there is better wrestling on the other side. I don't want you to tell me about the NWO. Tell me the work is better than what you just saw, because you can't. And I love that. I love that pride that JR has, and all of his boys having a great night, you know.
That's the unsung like part of the boom that's to come. It's the Jim Ross boys becoming the majority rather than the minority there as well. But it's just so funny as well that he has the ties to the other, because as you rightly say, obviously we do get the massive pop for Undertaker, and it's always impressive when he appears in the casket how he got there. And sure he was hiding under the ring with some production staff or something like that. And obviously you get the Undertaker and Foley brawl off, and the lesser of the two, the Vader and Sid brawl to backstage. It's just the most ginger brawl to backstage you'll ever see. But it just frees it up now for like, it does feel like it's a big, like Hogan would always do at the end of his pay-per-views, except Shawn didn't actually win here. You'd basically just get it's for like 4 minutes of unfiltered Shawn posing with the belt and going corner to corner, side of the ring to side of the ring, and threatening to show his arse, which was always a bit weird in 1996. And like I say, it gives Jim Ross that room to do it. It's like a weird big celebration, isn't it? As Shawn goes round flapping hands, and it feels like more non-kayfabe than kayfabe. Like he's proud of the performance he just put on. He's proud of the match as he walks around shaking hands with commentators and kissing babies.
I don't know if this is too grandiose a pitch for you, but I was like trying to sum up my thoughts on it as a whole, and I was just like, we're recording this in 2025, and I just felt like this match was like, you know how like AEW and WWE have gravitated away from each other, and it's good. They are very distinctly themselves, and I think that's better. I think WWE should be its best self, and I think AEW should be its best self, and those two things should be different to one another. Like, I kind of think this match somehow is the best of both of those worlds, because it's so like densely packed with like action and physicality, like you would get on a say like a standard Dynamite match or a big AEW pay-per-view match, but it always makes a point to stop and like make sure that like the characters are tended to and the story is tended to, and at no point they never let the crowd forget what's going on emotionally and what like they're revealing. It's like they've got X-ray specs on the audience. They can see into the brains of the wrestlers and they know why they're behaving the way they are. CM Punk once said the grass is greener where you water it, and this match, like, this grass is being watered. You cannot at no point that they're not trying to be too clever for you. They're not trying to leave you behind as a fan, but they're still doing work that isn't like best in class sort of thing. And I think too often WWE tries so hard to be this, do you get it? Do you get it? Do you get who these characters are, that neglects the action? And Dynamite, wrestling, like high octane, high moves, like turnover, with very little time to say, do I actually give a shit that the wrestler just did that? Am I that bothered right now on how impressive Konosuke Takeshita is? Because what's he actually doing other than farting around with the Don Callis family? Like, is he a heel? Is he a baby? Am I supposed to cheer that, or am I supposed to boo that? You know, and I just think that this match brought together those two worlds, and it sort of made me think like it made me think two things. It made me think, one, the WWF is absolutely fucked in 1996, and I, for one, just don't know why, because this is perfect. But it also made me think like the old wrestlers can train. Shawn Michaels can go to NXT and tell these wrestlers how to reveal their personas in the match like he did, but he can't teach them to wrestle like Shawn Michaels. And meanwhile, over in AEW, Christopher Daniels, one example, but there's a million others. Christopher Daniels can tell those wrestlers how to get the shit in and make it look really, really good, but he can't get them to open the window to the soul like Shawn Michaels could. And I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like, this match was an illustration of when it's all right. And I'm not sure who's doing that. Like, it's funny, if I can think of two wrestlers that have the potential to do that, it's fucking CM Punk and Hangman Page, and like, they're not going to get it together anymore. But they're probably, when I'm on the spot, I'm thinking of two wrestlers that illustrate the ability to give you both, and it's probably
Kenny, maybe. I can see like a Kenny and a Hangman on that side. He's got that other side to him too, but like he can pull, like Shawn. I think he's a lot like Shawn. He can pull those two elements together. The problem with Shawn, though, is he
probably.
Yeah, maybe less the work side, but more the other side, but it's more of a 70-30 than a 50-50. The worry with Shawn is these days, is he teaching them that, or is he teaching them the theatrics that he leaned on in his like post-2000 retirement run? Absolutely. Like, that's the case, and I think it's true here as well, like in 96, in that like WCW had arguably the better matches, but they were the undercard matches. They were the matches that only got 15 minutes because it was or 10 minutes because it was the cruiserweights. They didn't think of them. I can't think of one WCW match in 1996 that's like, one, got the work that's that high level of this, two, got the emotion that kind of runs through this, and the connection to the characters, because the guys who could do that work weren't necessarily connecting as characters for a variety of reasons, mostly WCW's fault. And three, obviously the main event of the WCW was the guy Shawn is, sending shots at, who just literally can't do this stuff, who might be able to do the emotional connection side of it, but can't do the physical side of it. Like, there's no comparison, is there, over on the WCW side in 1996? And I would argue WCW has the better work over the year, or maybe more into 97, and that's maybe an apt comparison to modern day too.
So I've got to ask you the big question: is this the best match we've reviewed so far?
I think most people would say yeah. For some reason, I'm struggling to say yeah. Like, I'm trying to think, what did I give? I think it's better than Shawn and Jeff, but I wonder did I go 5 on Shawn and Jeff? I think I must have went 4. I'm a coward. I must have gone 4.75 or 4.5 on that one.
Shawn and Jeff, I think, Shawn and Jeff's like, there's more purity to it, isn't it?
Yeah, like, and it's less I think the problem with, not a problem with this match is, you know, I've known this has been great since 1996, and I've watched it like it was great since 1986, and, you know, and once I finally got like a copy of the match, watched it a billion times, and then in adult life reviewed it a million times for podcasts. Whereas when we went back to Shawn and Jeff, I vaguely knew this was a great match, but not to the level obviously you did. So like it hit me. So I maybe enjoyed that one as much as this, but maybe this is slightly better. Yeah, along with the way I say that, I think it probably is.
Is it better than Good Friends, Better Enemies? Is it better than Bret and Bulldog? Like
better than Bret and Bulldog, I'd say.
Yeah, I think it's better than Bret and Bulldog. I think Good Friends, Better Enemies edges it because it's got a finish. I think when we talk about the lack of an ending, I think there's a real sense of finality, and that's where you notice the difference. Because I find it easier to say that Good Friends, Better Enemies just edges it because there's a winner and a loser.
You're tapping into my brain there, because I am thinking just with emotion. I can't think why, but I like Shawn and Diesel better. Why do I like Shawn and Diesel better? And as I'm wearing through it in my brain, I think you've nailed it there. That's probably the answer, because it's neater, because I've got OCD, and it's tidier, and it's like it hits its purpose more, and there's just that little bit that I kind of prefer about it. But that star rating, you know, we can go back to the GRAPPL comparison. If we're all honest, there's probably matches we've given 5 stars because we felt like we had to, and there's probably 3.5 star matches that we actually, if we're all honest, probably actually liked better. Obviously, that's not this. They're both close to 5-star matches, but there's like a bit of a secret sauce there as to why you might prefer one over the other. I kind of feel like Bret and Davies, like in a similar kind of match as far as like the momentum of it goes and the way they structure that match. It's just a different, obviously, type of match as well. But that's the other one that would run it close. But it's got to be so far.
It's better. It was brilliant, though, wasn't it? It's really good.
It's amazing. It's why we do this, isn't it? It's for matches like this.
Oh, totally, man.
Peak Shawn, peak 96.
Why you watch?
Love it. Well, there we go. That's the match of the year, according to Power Slam, Dave Meltzer, and I think Benno and Hamflett as well in 1996. And yeah, that's In Your House Mind Games. Obviously, we got some fun stuff to go as well. Buried Alive. We're gonna the younger child there, Benno and Hamflett, are gonna get to see what it looks like when her man is buried alive on a Fed show. Got that to look forward to as well. But yeah, any closing thoughts on In Your House Mind Games and any thoughts for the future? I'll just say quickly, can't believe it. We hit 10 there. We've done 10 housekeepings and we've done 10 In Your House reviews. How quickly did that come?
Too quickly. I don't like that we're already sailing through into 1997 and the dark clouds actually are looming. I will say that I think I love this specific period of 1996 so much that if there was going to be a single era where my glasses are most rose-colored, it's this one. I cannot get enough of the experiment. I don't think you get Shawn and Mankind without WWF being willing to experiment. I don't think you get Steve Austin being given so much rope without the risks they're willing to take. I'm veering into my defense of fake Razel and Deezer here, but there are so many elements that even when it doesn't work, I like watching them try as an organization. Let's not overstate this. This is still the company that's about to debut the Sultan and the Goon and Salvatore Sincere. Do you know what I mean? It's the new generation. It is, but what it's proffering, I'm so excited about the bubbling pot, the lid just about staying on the pan while the bubbles are pushing up against it. It's sort of like it's constant on these 1996 shows. Now it's from this point onwards, I would say Mind Games through to probably just through to before WrestleMania when Bret and Austin kind of create the line. It's here, right? The Fed's back. The Fed is categorically back. This period to then is when it's at its most Wild West, and I love that about it.
Yeah, and the two parts meet, don't they? The Shawn Ware title run meets what is to come next. It's a short period. We get to bathe in both things at the same time, and I'm definitely going to enjoy it as we go forward. But yeah, if there's anything else, obviously, like you say, we're sad to be moving through 1996 at such a fast speed. Maybe we'll go back somewhere at some point to talk some of the other stuff in 1996. But yeah, if you'd like us to talk more stuff from that, or we've skipped over anything you'd like us to review, I know Michael's got a way you can make us do that.
Indeed, you can leave us a 5-star match request. If you want to leave us a 5-star review, we would be very grateful. After the incident where Benno helpfully got us back on Spotify, got us back on all your various podcast providers, any sort of extra eyes we can get, we're basically trying to game the algorithm and gimmick it so we can get back up the podcast charts to get more people finding us and celebrating the new generation and In Your House. So if you want to leave us with a 5-star review, a little comment in the comments box, you can do this on Spotify. You can do this through YouTube or any of your podcast apps. Leave us a request for a match to cover. It may feature somebody from the new generation that maybe doesn't feature on In Your House. It may feature anybody from any other era for that matter. We have previously covered The Undertaker versus The Undertaker from SummerSlam 1994. Don't be that cruel, but we also covered Randy Savage versus The Ultimate Warrior from WrestleMania 7. We're both massive CM Punk fans, so we'd love any excuse to talk about anything he's done. Really, anything you fancy that doesn't quite fit within the In Your House canon, we'd love to review it for Housekeeping and give you a shout out as a thank you as well. So leave us that 5-star review, stick it in the comments box, and we'll get to it potentially on the very next edition of Housekeeping.
Indeed, and yeah, we've got a bit of a backlog of ones out there, so they are still there. But if you're worried, obviously with us losing some of the back catalogue, that it might have been lost at the time, no harm in submitting it twice. We'll take another 5-star review, or if not, we'll take a comment or catch us wherever we are, Twitter, Instagram, such places, and just let us know. But we'll get to them all. We'll get to all of the fantastic requests that we've had through. But yeah, if you want to do that, or you want to catch me otherwise, obviously you can catch me on Twitter at Benson Richard E.
I'm at Michael Hamflett.
And there you go. And next time we'll be catching up with some housekeeping. We'll be looking forward to In Your House 11. But yeah, until then, thanks for the house.